Recording in progress.
Good evening. I will now call Auburn study session meeting to order for Monday, November 24th. Will be held both in person and virtually. Tonight's, Hannah, could you please call roll?
Deputy Mayor Rakes.
Here.
Councilmember Ammer.
Here.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Here.
Councilmember Sturgis.
Excuse.
Councilmember Clinton Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Here. Excuse. Oh,
I'm right
sorry.
here.
Councilmember Troutman Wells.
Excused. Do we have any announcements or reports on tonight's agenda?
No, Chair, and no agenda modifications either.
Okay, thank you. I will now turn this portion of the meeting over to Tracy Taylor, Chair of Public Works and Community Development.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm super excited. We've got a very full list to go through tonight. First off, we'll hear from Director Kruger and City Attorney Whalen on the Seuss Creek Botanical Garden Conservation Efforts presentation.
Thank you.
I'll introduce you, Daniel. Sorry. Thank you, Councilmember Tracy Taylor, Council and Mayor. I'd like to introduce Daniel Gauk, and he will give the presentation on the King County Conservation Futures funding for a preservation opportunity at Seuss Creek Botanical Gardens. And both Jason Whalen and I can help answer questions once you've heard the presentation, if you've got any.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Council, Mayor. So as Julie mentioned, I'm here to talk about the Seuss Creek Botanical Gardens and the potential for preservation of the gardens through a grant from King County Conservation Futures, or CFT as it's commonly referred to. A little bit about, or just some background, as I mentioned, CFT is a conservation futures tax through King County that is essentially a fund that is available for cities and King County itself to purchase, typically it's for open/green spaces. The past projects that we've done, we purchased some properties that have Mill Creek run through it up in the north end of town a couple years ago. Prior to that, we purchased a kind of an open space area south of Isaac Evans Park. That was an opportunistic one, and then most recently the comic book building, or the building that was next to the old theater, which we purchased with these same CFT funds, and we purchased and demolished the building to create the new downtown green space park. So just kind of a quick timeline. The owners of the Seuss Creek Botanical Gardens actually reached out directly to King County Conservation Futures in 2023, and then the Conservation Futures essentially forwarded their information to the city, to park staff, because King County typically doesn't purchase properties when it's in the city limits. So we began talking with property owners in November-ish of 2023. And then we met again about a year later with we had our legal staff, Jason was there, along with the owner of the Seuss Creek Botanical Gardens and one of the head of the foundation member, to just kind of discuss, and we met at the site. kind of internal discussions, it was decided to, and again, talking with King County, they said it was a pretty good opportunity for the city to be able to get that grant. So we ended up applying for that earlier this year in the spring. And then we had a presentation with in front of the Conservation Futures Review Committee in May of this year. And then in August, the King County staff notified us that this grant was being recommended to the King County Council for their review and assuming approval. And then on the 18th, just a couple days ago, the King County Council passed their budget that included this grant to purchase and preserve the property of the Sioux Creek Botanical Gardens. There was, it's not on here, but we also applied for an additional, they call it site stabilization for $250,000 that will be heard in the spring for demolition of one of the old mobile homes that's on the property there. So we're waiting. This project doesn't really, that was kind of an add-on that the staff, King County staff had recommended for us to apply for. So we'll hear about that in the spring. The grant was for just about $2.1 million. And then those funds become available at the beginning of the year, essentially. Just a little bit about the gardens, if you haven't been up there. The property itself is about 23 acres. And I'll show some maps of the property, but it's got, over the past 50 years, the owner has been all over the world and brought in all these unique and rare plant species. I know he has a lot from when he went to Japan that he mentioned. There's a pond. You can see the ducks there. There's a stream, a fish-bearing stream that runs along the east side of the property, kind of downhill of the gardens. And then it includes a heritage center, and I got some more pictures of those in here, but it has a heritage center which the owner has compiled over his lifetime and his family's lifetime, just of the history kind of Lee Hill where the gardens are located. And it's unique what it is. Here's just kind of a map of the gardens itself. You can see on the right side of the map the Susette Creek, that's the stream that I mentioned. And then it's just kind of sprawling from there. There's several buildings on the property. The number 8 is where the owner currently lives. And he would continue to live there until he passes, I guess, for lack of a better term. And then you just kind of see the amenities there. This is a couple pictures of the house that the owner lives in. It's all custom-built timbers with wood from the property up there. It's really an amazing kind of place. Here's the Heritage Center that I mentioned. Couldn't get enough pictures in these slides to show how cool it is in there, but there's one of just kind of the buggy from 100 years ago, whatever the date is on that. But it's a nice picture there. A couple pictures of the gardens. So the picture on the left is a shelter they use for rentals for weddings and that type of stuff. And then the picture on the right is their just a snapshot of their yearly plant sale that helps to fund their ongoing maintenance and operations of the gardens. A couple more pictures there. The pond is the one on the left there that's up near just outside of kind of the back doors of the main house. As I mentioned, so pictures in the upper right, those are local students that are releasing salmon fry into the stream. They do that every year. The gardens themselves, they work with the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the Auburn School District. They show the picture on the bottom right is their community gardens where they grow food that they donate to the Auburn Food Bank. I don't remember the poundage that they do, but they do a lot of donations there. They do career building opportunities, so they have a couple staff that actually work there, I think pretty much full time, and they offer, you know, education and partnerships for different organizations like the Symphony does performances up there as well. So try to make this map it's kind of a confusing overall project, but hopefully this map kind of summarizes it. So the yellow dashed line is where so with the conservation futures, it's to preserve green and open spaces. So there would be required to be a deed restriction on the property to preserve that in perpetuity. And so the yellow dashed line is where the outline of that deed restriction would be. The large red parcel. So overall, there would have to be a boundary line adjustment that would be done to kind of combine and move a couple lines that we're currently working on. And then I guess I'll just kind of start in the top right. The top right is an existing house that's a family member of the property owner, and so she owns that property, but there's something on the title that says he gets the essentially 2 acres on the west side, so to the left of that, and when the property sells. And so the large red area and the orange square would be the areas that the city would take ownership of. And then the parcels in the top left, the light blue ones, those are owned by I put society there, but it's the Sioux Creek Foundation, and so those generate income. Those are rental properties that generate income for their operations. And then the same with the parcel in the green area. That's another rental property that would continue to be owned by the Maurice Skagen, who's the owner. Which also generates rental income for them. The area with the yellow kind of square with the sideways bricks in it in the middle, that's where the main house, the Heritage Center, and the pavilion that I showed you the pictures of, those are located still on the same parcel, but that area would not be located in the deed restriction because they're buildings, so buildings are not allowed to be in the open spaces. So it's kind of a minor detail, but and here's kind of what the existing building is. I call out where the pavilion, the museum is. The mobile home that I mentioned that we applied for additional funds for demolition is in the top middle of the site there. And just the parking lot which Alexandria, who's here, she worked on that I think several years ago, working with the gardens. And then their main entrance. So should have put a kind of vicinity map on here, but this is just south and east of Auburn Mountain View High School and across the street from the Jacobson Tree Farm property. Okay, so potential next steps. So as I mentioned, so this PowerPoint was put together before we knew officially that we were going to get the grant. But essentially the funds would be used to purchase the property from the owner. And then those funds would go into an endowment or something similar for the Sioux Creek Botanical Garden Foundation to essentially use as, kind of their pot moving forward of their operations and maintenance, along with all the whatever funds that the property owner has in his retirement, those type of things that would go into that same fund. And so there would the kind of big part of this is there has to be an agreement between the city and the Sioux Creek Botanical Foundation to ensure that the foundation is the city's going to be the property owner, but we're not maintaining it. We're not mowing lawns or doing any maintenance on anything on there. So that's the first big step was obviously finding out if we're going to get the grant, and then this next step, which Jason Whalen has been working with the foundation and the garden's owner on putting an agreement together to make sure everything works for the city, and then the city's not going to be mowing lawns. And then as part of that, so let's say in 20 years, whatever the timeline is, if the foundation does, dissolve for whatever reason, the city's not going to go and then start maintaining the gardens. It'd be an open space and it would go, go back to being natural. And then another item to that too is, since the buildings, the main house, the pavilion, and the museum would be owned by the city, that there's another step there where we have to figure out how the maintenance of those buildings would work with the foundation and the city essentially not being responsible for that part of it. The next steps, we have an existing interlocal agreement with the King County Conservation Futures that we essentially update every time. We do an amendment to it every time we get these grants. So we did one in 2024 for the comic book building. So this would be another one of those pretty simple step. Operating and maintenance agreement, that's really the biggest part of it. Like I mentioned, that our very smart attorney and their attorney will be able to hopefully be able to figure that end of it out. And then of course the purchase and sale agreements that would go through with to transfer properties. And that is my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'll start with the questions. I guess more along the lines of, we've seen, or I guess in my experience, I've seen foundations fail and dissolve. Are we concerned about that? And if there is a possibility of that foundation dissolving, what kind of pressure does that put on the city? You had said that we won't have to maintain that, it goes into a natural area, but what will that do to the surrounding neighborhoods, and how would they feel about that? Is that something that we're concerned about?
I don't know that I could speak to like the neighbors. I guess it would essentially be like living next to an open space.
Okay.
We have like like near the golf course.
Sure.
There's green spaces there that people live next to, and it's just think about. I don't know how the neighbors would feel.
Council, any questions? Councilmember Baldwin?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for working to coordinate this, and thank you to Mr. Skagen, because this is an incredible opportunity, I think, for the city to expand its green spaces and the amenities available to our residents and keep those going into the future. In that space of moving forward with the maintenance and operations agreements and what that could look like, one of the things that comes to mind is, obviously they'll have responsibilities as a foundation, but we as a city have certain things that we do that I think we do quite well, particularly, we have Parks and Rec and we have rental of facilities and that type of thing. Do we anticipate any coordination where the foundation might work with us in making those facilities available for rental through our Parks and Rec website and portfolio?
There hasn't been that detailed type of discussion. There initially were talks about that the city would have the opportunity to use, for instance, the main house as a retreat type facility or something like that. But I don't foresee the city, having that into our rental system. I think that would all go through the foundation as they do it now.
Council, any more questions? I think you're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Our next agenda item is a capital projects status update and featured capital project First Street, Northeast, Northwest, and Division Street pedestrian improvements. Director Galb.
Yes, and we have several staff up there tonight to give you a briefing on our capital project status. So that includes Jacob Sweeting, our Assistant Director and City Engineer, and Jeffrey Bender, one of our Senior Project Engineers, and Shelby Moyer, who is one of our Project Engineers. So they're going to go over the capital projects with you as well as that featured capital project.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Chair, Mayor, council members. My name is Jeffrey Bender. I'm a senior project engineer in the Public Works Engineering Department. I will be presenting tonight the capital project status update. And I have with me Shelby, and she will be presenting the capital project that we are featuring for you this quarter. Currently, the capital project group is managing 41 active capital projects. The total value of those projects is approximately $138 million. Keep in mind that that $138 million expands over many fiscal years for the life of the projects. Of those 41 capital projects, 24 of those are in various stages of design, and 17 of those are in construction, also at various stages of construction. And for your knowledge, I've provided the breakdown there of design versus construction for the approximate values. If you've not had an opportunity to explore the interactive capital project mapping tool, I'd encourage you to do so. All of the projects that we have active are in there, as well as projects that have been completed. On the screen right here is an example of the capital project status report that you have in your packet, which starts on page 37. In your packet, you will find each project is listed, and it'll provide you the project number, the name of the project with a brief description, estimated costs, estimated construction start and finish timeframes, the project manager who's responsible for that project, any recent projects or progress, whether it's in design or construction, where we are. And we also provide the design consultant and the contractor that is performing the work once it's in construction. Down at the bottom of this slide is the link to the interactive map or the capital projects page where you can find the interactive map. Tonight I'd like to highlight 4 of our current projects in construction. The first of those is going to be CP 1622, which is the Auburn Way South widening project from Hemlock to Poplar. This project aims to transform this crucial corridor by expanding the capacity, improving safety for all users, and upgrading essential infrastructure. With that, the photos that I have here are some of the activities that have been completed recently. There's a lot of construction activity that's happening out there. We've got sidewalk going down, we've got some construction walls, barrier walls going in. I'm sure any of you have driven through there, have seen all the project progress. Right now, we are anticipating completion to be in early spring of next year. The second project I would like to highlight tonight is CP 2211, which is our 49th Street Northeast Improvement Projects. On all of these slides, there is a vicinity map that should give you an idea of where they are located. So this one is on the north end of the city. This project will widen 49th Street between Auburn Way North and D Street Northeast. And it also connects to the 49th Street corridor that was constructed with the Coppergate development. One interesting fact about this is the incorporated separated trail that we have will also provide a connection to the future I-Line bus stop. That'll be on Auburn Way North. On this project, as I mentioned, it does have a separated trail. We are upgrading the lighting, and we will be installing a two-way left turn lane. Right now, the project is currently in suspension for weather, and we are also coordinating with PSC to relocate their utility poles to the back of the sidewalk so that we have room for the new roadway prism. The third project I would like to highlight is our CP 2412 2025 Local Street Preservation Project. This project can be found on page 38 of your packet. It will reconstruct O Street Southeast between 33rd Street Southeast and 37th Street Southeast. It'll also reconstruct portions of 33rd Street Southeast between M Street Southeast and Olympic. Currently, the contractor is working on installing the new storm drain system that didn't previously exist, that you can see in a couple of the photos here. This project does reconstruct the roadway in total, so the photos show the roadway ground out. New water main has already been installed, and water main connections are being made with upgraded services to the residences. The final project I would like to update or highlight for you is the CP 2332 Lee Hill Safe Routes to School. The name of this project says it all. We are working in school zones. We are working on school walking paths, and we are going to be upgrading the street lighting. We are installing sidewalks where sidewalk gaps currently exist. There's one new RRFB that is being installed on 304th. And there are upgrades that are being done near the RRFB on 124th Avenue Southeast. In the intersection at 116th Avenue Southeast and Southeast 304th Street, we'll be getting a new crosswalk installed with significant lighting upgrades for the pedestrians. And before I turn it over to Shelby, I would like to ask if you guys have any questions specific to the capital project status report.
Council, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Shelby Moyer, and I'm project engineer here with the City of Auburn. And I'm fortunate to be the project manager for today's featured capital project, the First Street Northeast, Northwest, and North Division Street Pedestrian Improvement Project. My presentation is going to start off with where this is located, the existing condition before moving on to the proposed improvements, the project funding, and the construction schedule. So let's start. Okay, this intersection is located at the northeast corner of City Hall. This intersection shares corners with the Auburn Professional Plaza, which is where the City Hall Annex is located. There's also various medical facilities in the Auburn Professional Plaza. The northeast corner is Multi-Care Hospital, as well as the parking garage on the northwest side. This intersection supports many pedestrians accessing the Multi-Care facilities, City Hall, Auburn Transit Station, parking garages, numerous other businesses and residences within the downtown core. As it exists today, the intersection features curb extensions on the east side of the street. These are also known as bulb outs or curb bulbs. On the southeast corner, this curb bulb was constructed in 2007 as part of the Auburn Professional Plaza's frontage improvements. And on the northeast corner, that curb bulb was constructed in 2018 as part of the Multi-Care emergency room remodel. And Multi-Care also constructed the concrete crosswalk that is present on the east side of the street as part of their frontage improvements. Street lighting is also present along this roadway. This intersection is also all-way stop controlled as it exists today. So that means there's stop signs on each of the 4 approaches. There's also a roadway marking stop at each of the stop bars on the approaches. And these stop sign poles themselves have reflective sleeves on them. There are also high visibility flags for pedestrians to utilize when crossing the crosswalk. And so, as I have mentioned, this is a key pedestrian route for those accessing downtown, whether that be doctor's appointments, the medical facilities, City Hall, Postmark Center, and the residences. So despite the intersection meeting all federal, state, and local design standards, as well as the multiple safety countermeasures we've installed, like those high visibility flags and the reflective sleeves, there have been instances of crashes and near misses involving pedestrians and vehicles at this intersection, which leads me into this project's purpose. So the purpose of this project is to improve non-motorized access at this intersection by installing safety countermeasures that will reduce the likelihood of serious or fatal pedestrian crashes. And so this project is designed to be consistent with the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, also known as the MUTCD, which is a national standard. This project is also aligning with our Auburn's Comprehensive Transportation Program, our Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, and our Transportation Improvement Plan. So these proposed improvements. We'll be raising the intersection and crosswalks And raising the intersection and crosswalks will improve the likelihood of pedestrians to be seen as they cross the crosswalks and intersection. The raised intersection makes it uncomfortable for drivers to speed through the intersection and forces them to reduce speed. This project will also construct curb extensions at each corner, which will reduce the crossing lengths for pedestrians and reduce the time they spend within the roadway as they cross the street. We'll also be installing new street lighting for pedestrian and vehicle lighting. And also this project will replace the 2 existing stop signs on the north-south approaches. We'll be removing those stop signs and replacing them with rapid rectangular flashing beacons, or RFBs, to attract driver attention when active to stop for the crossing pedestrians. And I'll talk more about this on the next slide. And lastly, incorporated in this project are water main infrastructure and stormwater infrastructure improvements. The upgrade of the water main from 6 inches to 8 inches ensures adequate water supply to the downtown core as well as fire flow. And the upgrade to the stormwater infrastructure ensures that the proposed improvements have drainage. And so we want to do this utility work now rather than coming back in the future years after this intersection is completed. Okay. So why remove stop signs? And we really wanted to focus on pedestrian safety with this decision. So despite the implementation of those multiple safety countermeasures that I discussed, those reflective sleeves, the high visibility flags, as well as focused police enforcement in this area, some drivers are still not stopping at the stop signs and not stopping for pedestrians. And so we asked ourselves what other measures would bring more awareness to the pedestrians crossing the roadway. And so we explored the FHWA, the Federal Highway Administration's Office of Safety, and they have a Safe Transportation for Every Pedestrian program, also known as STEP. Through STEP, the FHWA promoted a variety of proven safety countermeasures that would improve pedestrian crossing locations and reduce crashes. And 2 of those proven safety countermeasures are to raise the intersection and install RFBs. And so, as I mentioned, the RFBs attract driver attention when active, when they are pedestrian activated, so they're an active pedestrian safety device. And so when the pedestrian beacons are flashing, drivers are warned that there's a pedestrian preparing to cross the roadway or within the roadway, and so they slow down their speed, they yield for the pedestrian, which reduces the likelihood that a driver would not stop for a pedestrian. And so MUTCD guidance, that National Traffic Control Safety Standard for traffic control devices, they advise that agencies shall not utilize RFBs at crosswalks that are controlled by stop signs, yield signs, or other controlling devices. So RFBs are only to be used at uncontrolled intersections, which is why we need to remove the stop signs to implement this traffic control device. And given the history at this intersection, this measure to remove the stop signs on the north-south approaches and replace them with RFBs is intended to enhance driver awareness of pedestrians crossing the roadway. So, project budget and schedule. So this project is expected to cost approximately $1,220,000 for both design and construction. $120,000 of that will be the design of this project, and $1,100,000 of that will be the total construction cost. We were fortunate to be awarded a $500,000 grant by the Federal Highway Administration administered through the PSRC, the Puget Sound Regional Council. And so that $500,000 will be combined with arterial street funds and water utility funds to reach that total project cost of $1,220,000. As of right now, we have started design. We started design in January of this year, and we are expecting construction to start in spring of 2026 and continue into the summer. Due to long lead time items like the streetlight poles, we are expecting that the project continue into quarter 4 of 2026, but we do expect that it will be completed by 2026, by the end of 2026. A little about the construction of this project. So due to the impact the construction will have at this intersection, we are expecting that it will require a full closure of the intersection. Temporary pedestrian detour routes and detour routes will be implemented, as well as pedestrian ramps at the intersection corners, like the downtown infrastructure improvement project implemented. We have started discussions of what this project construction will look like with various stakeholders like VFR VRFA, and multi-care because they use this intersection for emergency room access. And we'll continue those discussions as we get toward construction of this project. And finally, Sound Transit is completing a similar improvement to the intersection of A Street Northwest and First Street Northwest. So at the northwest corner of City Hall, that intersection, and that's associated with their parking garage project that's currently active. And we're actively coordinating the two construction timelines for this project as we approach construction. And with that,
My question would be along the lines of parking. I'm kind of concerned people come in for the multi-care, clinic and whatnot and park their street parking. Are we going to see an impact for that?
during construction.
Yes.
We will coordinate, we are working through those details, but we are expecting to do similar parking, like the downtown infrastructure improvement project where we had side parking. We'll be implementing a measure such as that during the construction of this project, so.
I would assume that there would be decent messaging going out to the businesses and to our public for that.
Definitely.
Okay, fabulous. Council, any more questions? Councilmember Baldwin?
Well, you answered my first one on what does that mean for emergency vehicles coming and going to multi-care, so thank you that you're already having those conversations. The second one is probably a little bit silly and maybe more to do with the timeline of the project is I know that intersection is used quite a bit during the Veterans Day Parade, so are you anticipating we would be done in time for that?
Yes. Until the closure of the project, yes.
Council, any more questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Next is ordinance number 6990. An ordinance relating to planning, adopting the 2025 annual comprehensive plan text amendments and plan map amendment pursuant of provisions chapter 36.70A RCW and adopting a correspondence rezone. Director Crum.
Thank you, Chair. Tonight's annual comprehensive plan presentation is going to be provided by a couple members of our planning team, Dinah Reed, Senior Planner, and Gabriel Clark, Planner 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Taylor, Mayor, and council members. I'm Dinah Reed, Senior Planner, and I'll be presenting tonight along with Gabriel Clark, our Planner 2. We're both in the Department of Community Development. And we're here to discuss the 2025 annual amendments. We have both tonight a privately initiated amendment and city-initiated amendments. And I will be presenting the privately initiated annual amendment. So the map on this page, it shows the location of this proposal. It's a total of 15 parcels, about 44 acres. It was in the Lakeland Hills South PUD boundary. It's at the intersection of Lake Tapps Parkway Southeast and Sumner Tapps Highway. These parcels are owned by the Auburn School District. They're in Pierce County. And the compilation of parcels here is bisected by a pipeline and power line right-of-way owned by Northwest Pipeline Corporation and a water tower owned by the City of Bonnie Lake. The proposal before council tonight is related to a prior action. As you'll recall, in September, the council approved to have 14 of the parcels extracted from the Lakeland Hills PUD boundary. And that took place on September 15th and was adopted under Ordinance 6988. So tonight's proposal is to complete that process by amending the land use designation of the site to public quasi-public and to rezone the site to P1 Public Use District. And the purpose for this comprehensive plan land use map amendment and rezone will support the proposal for the eventual development of the new middle school. The next couple of slides are very simple. This one shows the existing land use map designation of neighborhood residential 2, and the proposed land use designation will become public quasi-public. This map shows the existing zoning as residential for one parcel, and then the other parcels, the other 14 parcels are existing as Lakeland Hills South Special Plant Area. And the proposal is to rezone these to P1 Public Use District for all 15 parcels. And lastly, Planning Commission recommends to City Council the approval of the Auburn School District request for a comprehensive plan land use map amendment and rezone.
Thank you, Dinah, for the presentation. As Dinah introduced me, I will be discussing the city-initiated annual amendments, of which the City of Auburn has received 7 text amendments, or proposing 7 text amendments and 1 map amendment. Let's see, beginning on page 60 of your packets are where we start off with those annual amendments. And then I will be discussing the capital facilities plans of the school district starting on page 183. As a part of the annual amendment process, each year the 4 school districts that serve the residents of the city of Auburn submit their capital facilities plans as an annual update. These include student projections, levels of service amounts, as well as planned projects for the planning horizon. Beginning with text amendment number 1 being the Auburn School District Capital Facilities Plan. The school district expects a steady increase of student enrollment over the 10-year planning horizon, as well as references to needing a new middle school as well as a high school in the near future as a part of the 2023 Master Facilities Plan, as well as other renovations to several elementary schools, new administrative buildings, and other critical infrastructure such as that. Text amendment number 2, beginning on page 243, is the Derringer School District Capital Facilities Plan. Here, the projections for student enrollment remain consistent. However, the student body is at or nearing capacity of the existing 2 elementary schools and single middle school. The school district is proposing a grade reconfiguration in the coming years to better align with student progression and social progress, as there's some inconsistency of the way that the school district has orchestrated that, in addition to a potential new elementary school to meet student demand. Beginning on page 276, the Federal Way Public School remains marginal in their growth. They've received completion on a number of their Phase 2 bond projects, but they are considering studying the proposed land use changes that are occurring near the new Federal Way Link Light Rail Station upgrade, and will provide us those numbers accordingly, probably in the next revision to their capital facilities plan update. Beginning on page 310, the Kent School District has noted that they are anticipating a 1.5% annual decline in student enrollment at this time. The reasons are not clearly known as to why. However, the district is making appropriate analyses on continuing to monitor development and work with the city on getting some more information. Text amendment number 5 is a revision of page 22 of our capital facilities element in our comprehensive plan. This includes timeline project updates for the various school districts and other procedural revisions. Notably, in the first paragraph with associated school impact fees, to maintain consistency with the Growth Management Act as well as RCW 8202, we are separating those processes to make administrative practices a little bit more streamlined, ensuring that SEPA analyses and review are specific to the Growth Management Act. Text amendments number 6 and 7 are in regards to the housing element and housing needs assessment. Table 1 and figure 34, there are some corrections to the calculations on the table that you can see here, as well as some of the headings, including PSH, non-PSH, and total, to reflect more accurate descriptions in our comprehensive plan. The city initiated 1 land use map amendment. over off of I Street, there were 23 parcels, or there are 23 parcels currently designated as public, quasi-public. As a result, an inadvertent error in the land use designation process as part of the comprehensive plan update. The city is proposing to update those parcels to align better with the existing residential zone of neighborhood residential 2. Planning Commission recommends approval of the 2025 city initiated annual amendments, text amendments 1 through 7 and map amendment number 1. Are there any questions for either Dinah or I?
Council, any questions? Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Can you go back to the previous slide, that next one? So what happened there that it had to be
Yes, so as a part of our comprehensive plan update, these 23 parcels before were designated as residential low. But as a part of that comprehensive plan update, the public quasi-public land use designation was covering those 23 parcels, for example. And so what we are recommending or working with is to bring those 23 parcels that were residential and are residential in character to conform to the underlying land use of that site.
Council, any more questions? Fabulous, thank you.
Thank you.
Speed through here. Ordinance number 7009, an ordinance adopting school impact fees for 2026, amending chapter 19.02 of the Auburn City Code. Director Crum.
Thank you again, Chair. Gabriel Clark will be presenting on the school impact fee update.
Thank you. Haven't gotten rid of me yet, so I'm here to present to you until however you see fit. But here we go. So the 2026 school impact fees, as requested by the school districts that service the city of Auburn. First and foremost, Chapter 1902 Auburn City Code authorizes and contains the school impact fees for each of the 4 school districts that service the city of Auburn. So as mentioned on my previous presentation, that's the Auburn School District, Derringer School District, Federal Way Public Schools, and Kent School District. Within that chapter contains a fee calculation formula, and then as well as a requirement to update those fees annually. All right. Just as a refresher, the 4 capital facilities plans that service the annual update to those fees. In those requests that we have received, there were 2 school districts that requested modifications. The Kent School District as well as the Federal Way Public Schools, due to their either declining or standing growth for their enrollment, they do not request to make modifications for impact fees. The Auburn School District is proposing changes to the 2026 impact fee schedule for single family will be $8,003 and multifamily will remain the same. That would be an increase of $3,419 of the previous year at $4,584 for single family residences. Similarly, in light of their capital facilities plans and goals, the Derringer School District is proposing to increase their impact fees for single-family and multifamily, notably at $7,333 for single-family and $4,545 for multifamily. These align with the capital facilities plans and proposed projects that are contained in those plans. I will also note that the Derringer School District is the only school district in concert with Pierce County and Auburn. So the Pierce County Code section 4A 30030 establishes a minimum or maximum fee obligation that school districts can charge the residents. That is to help mitigate the cost of those impact fees. The Derringer School District does not propose fees that surpass that maximum threshold or maximum fee obligation. Staff recommendation, staff recommends adoption of the proposed school impact fees, amending Chapter 1902, Auburn City Code.
Council, any questions? No questions.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. I'll hand it back over to Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. We're looking at ordinance number 7010 with Director Martinson, an ordinance affirming that council members and the deputy mayor eligible optional participation in public employees retirement system and authorizing payment of the required employee contribution for those who elect membership.
Good evening, Council, Deputy Mayor, Mayor, Candace Martinson, Director of HR and Risk Management. And I'm here to discuss the optional PERS participation, so ordinance 7010. So I'm here to walk you through that, and it will affirm eligibility for optional PERS participation for council members and the Deputy Mayor. I'll cover what the ordinance does, how PERS membership works for elected officials, the rough fiscal implications for that, and the administrative reasons for bringing this forward now. And so this study session is informational only, and the ordinance will appear for action on December 1st. So under RCW 4140.023.3A, elected officials in Washington may participate in PERS, but membership is optional. And council members must affirmatively elect membership. And so this ordinance affirms eligibility, ensures payroll compliance with DRS reporting rules, enables council members who choose to enroll to earn retirement service credit, and it does not change compensation or create a new benefit. So how PERS works for elected officials is the eligibility is related to the council and deputy mayor stipends. So for 2025, the council stipend is $1,800 per month and deputy mayor's $2,400 per month. And so the 2025 PERS threshold is $1,465.20 per month, or otherwise 90 times the minimum wage. And so Auburn's stipend exceeds this threshold, so therefore you would be eligible to purchase service credit. And the DRS rules specifically state that elected officials do not earn service credit based on hours worked like city employees do. Instead, service credit is based on whether the elected official's monthly compensation meets the earnings threshold tied to minimum wage. So if you meet that 90 times minimum wage threshold, which you all do, then you should be eligible for one service credit per month. I will do a huge disclaimer that this will all be based on your individual outreach with DRS to determine your eligibility if you would like to purchase back previous service credit. And so I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. But this is based off of the research that I've done, as well as some research on other cities that have brought forth an ordinance for their council and deputy mayors, such as what we are doing here. So most elected officials enroll in PERS 2 plans. So you have the option to enroll in PERS 2 or PERS 3. That PERS 2 is a defined benefit, so as opposed to PERS 3 is a defined contribution. And I can get into the weeds on that with you if you'd like to meet individually, but I don't want anyone to fall asleep here while I explain the difference of those. And then the way that PERS 2 defined benefit works is your final benefit is 2% times your years of service times your average highest 60 consecutive months. So vesting for PERS 2 requires 5 years or 60 months of service credit. And then service credit can combine with past or future DRS covered employment. So just to reiterate, the enrollment is voluntary. You can all enroll at any time during your term. And if you're enrolling midterm, membership is retroactive to the first day of the current term. Members must pay retroactive employee elected contributions plus interest, and the city must pay retroactive employer contributions plus interest. So for past service credit, so anyone on the council may purchase credit for past elected terms after enrolling for the current term. The city is responsible for employer contributions plus interest for any of those previous term purchases. And so this purchase option would create the maximum cost scenario for the city. So most likely, most of you will purchase retroactive for current terms. And so rough calculation on what that would be total is $11,700 for the employer, for the city. And then the second scenario is the maximum exposure. So everyone who's currently on the council that has had past eligible service, and so one council member does have service back to 2014. So that would be $6,676 additional. So combined maximum exposure under this scenario is $18,367. And that's the principal only. That's a calculation without interest. So if when you all elect, then we'll know the actual exposure, but just if you wanted a rough calculation of what we're talking about. Ongoing costs going forward would be $1,205 per year per council member, and then $1,607 a year for deputy mayor. So $8,800 a year if all enroll. And then obviously that goes up proportionally as the Independent Salary Commission raises your monthly wage. There was a question that came up about a council member who may be working for another PERS employer. And so DRS rules allow individuals to contribute to PERS in 2 positions at once. However, a member can only earn 1 service credit a month total, even if working in multiple PERS positions actively. However, you may still pay in to increase your highest paid 60 months and final average salary calculation. You just wouldn't get any additional service credit, but you could increase your final average salary. And so I will open it up if there are any questions.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. I do have a question, just with all these figures and stuff. So what actually would be the cost to the council member?
So I can look up what the contribution rate is, but when I calculated the employer costs, I didn't necessarily calculate each individual because it's so variable based on what you guys decide. But the contribution for the city and the member is somewhat similar. So it would be somewhere in the ballpark of anticipated $1,205 per year per council member and $1,607 per year for the deputy mayor position, current rates, without interest.
Any other questions, council? Councilmember Baldwin.
I think this is great information. I'm curious what was the trigger to put it into play? Was it the change in compensation? Being able to meet that threshold, or I'm trying to remember when we would have met that criteria for the eligibility threshold.
So this was added to the agenda upon request of a council member and then confirmation of deputy mayor and mayor.
Any other questions, council? Councilmember Hammer.
And correct me, because the city has not budget for that. Is that correct? It's not in the budget. Let's say one of the council or 2 or 3, but this not in our budget for this. I mean, at all. Is that correct?
It wasn't added as a decision package for the biennium budget, so if the council chooses, any of the members of the council or the deputy mayor choose to participate in this, if the ordinance passes on the first, then we would need to determine with our finance director whether it's something that could be absorbed in the existing council budget, or if we would need to do a budget amendment, but given the dollar figures, I believe that it would be absorbed in the existing budget of any underspend in the overall city budget for the biennium.
Thank you. Any other questions, council? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, I'm gonna turn this over to Councilmember Baldwin for our rules and procedures.
Okay, do you want a 10-minute break while I shift over?
Sure. We're gonna take a 10-minute recess. Back at 6:39.
To be ready.
Yes, sir.
No, go ahead,
No,
go ahead,
it's-
go ahead. Go ahead, go
No,
ahead,
no.
no, go ahead, go ahead. I don't wanna
It's a
be
party foul.
selfish, go ahead.
What's that?
I should make coffee, but
Party foul. Is it a party foul to have coffee?
Where's that from?
The mug? Someone brought it back from a cruise ship.
and what?
Norwegian.
Oh,
Never
okay.
been on that one? Okay.
Well, still on East Coast time.
Is there snow in Michigan?
There was my first day there. It was very pretty, but it didn't stick, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately.
It's only in passes. Yeah, it's cold, it'll be cold,
so hot.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this week,
I
so
know,
it
it's
takes a
hot,
hot.
the ground is too warm. It's like 44, so.
It's freezing.
It's 44 degrees in this building
I
right
think
now.
Christmas gift for everybody should be blanket.
It is, yeah.
Right?
Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting back to order, and I'm gonna turn it over to Councilmember Baldwin for the rules and procedures.
Thank you. So, welcome back, everybody. We are kicking off with a return to rules and procedures. So, just a refresh for anybody who's joining into the conversation for the first time today. This committee was formed to review and update the rules of procedure document, which is used to guide council based to do that review and update based on requests that were submitted by council members for our 2025 review cycle. The committee membership was myself and I served as chair. We also had Deputy Mayor Cheryl Rakes and Councilmember Clinton Taylor serving on that committee. Staff support provided to that committee had been by Attorney Jason Whalen as well as our city clerk, Sean Campbell. When we set out to do this review, we created kind of three tenets that we really wanted to adhere to. The first was to make sure that any changes introduced follow the law. Always important. So that was always one of our guides. The second was to make sure that we were mindful and that we were not introducing things that could be creating more work for staff. So we wanted to make sure that as changes came in, if there was a risk of that we were taking the time to, be considerate of what it may or may not imply for staff to be able to accommodate those. And lastly, to make sure that we're serving the community. So is it a change that will help council, do the work of the legislative body better? Is it things that will help us organize and manage ourselves as we do this work? So our timeline was we first had the committee formed back in February, and at that time council received I think it was about 30 days or roughly a month to provide their input. We began meeting based on that input, and we met about 7 different occasions with the city attorney and clerk to review that input and work through incorporating the feedback. So really taking the time to compile everything, see where sometimes requests from different people would line up. Sometimes they were unique requests, and sometimes we might have feedback where there was multiple overlaps in different areas. And so we went through and had those sessions. By June, we did begin our first review with council in full study session, having 2 sessions on June 9th and June 23rd. And on each occasion, our clerk worked to update the document with the feedback that we had coming out of these sessions, where we had a recognizable consensus. We did pause over July, August, September, and October, and I thank everyone for their patience with that. I think folks know I was out of state for a portion, helping my mom through hospice and her passing. And so taking a minute to kind of get back into the swing of things after that, picking back up this November is picking up with that review. So in your packets as an attachment, the last draft revision would be based on that June 23rd meeting. And with that, anything that had been indicated as green has been accepted to date, and anything that was blue was something that had been noted as, potentially under evaluation. And so for what's in the packet, just that reminder of where we're coming from with that. Now,
I have a question. Can you go back to the slide?
Yes.
So last year, when the process was kind of transparent, the ad hoc committee they met and prepared everything, then they brought it back to the full council. And after that, everything became that what they told us, the ad hoc dissolved and everything will be back to council. This year, after we had the 2 meetings, it went back to ad hoc, which I want to understand why.
My understanding is that the committee still exists until we have seen through and been able to get it to a vote. So at this stage, we're
When
still.
speaking last year, so what changed? Even if you read our ad hoc, it's being specific. Anyway, beside the other comment in the ad hoc, if you look at our rule 16.2, it required all ad hoc members to be present to take action. I'm not sure, did you you cannot meet with 2 people. My question, did being all the time the 3 ad hoc member there, nobody missed the meeting?
The very last meeting that we had, where we were working to see if there were any other changes and figure out an approach to get it back on the schedule, all members had been invited. Councilmember Taylor was unable to attend, but after that meeting, everything had been shared out to him. I had reached out to him to make sure that he was comfortable with materials being presented and the approach being presented. So
The ad hoc specific, the 3 need to be present, not to, that's fine. And the next slide, I'll have my comment for the next slide.
all right. So based on the previous meeting, one of the things that people were curious about was where were the bulk of feedback located against the against the last version of the document. And so I went through and assessed what we had against the different sections. And so this just provides a count for items that we had against the different areas for cleanup. And so, when you see 37 on the deputy mayor section, that was a combination of things that were both considered high interest as well as a lot of cleanup, because we also did the cleanup of the language where there were the constant references to deputy mayor and or interim deputy mayor. So a good portion of that was simply the cleanup of the or interim deputy mayor that was happening with that. So what was your question for this slide?
Or the next one.
Okay. On this one, in the same space of when we first went into that first June meeting, what did the first draft that we brought to council have as far as direction or guidance? And so looking to compile all of the requests that had been received, This gives a breakdown of roughly the different things that we had heard. You'll see some where that was a combination of a requester and the committee. So sometimes things that had come in, the committee would work with that item as well. And so this was trying to break down and show back what was happening as far as what was submitted by whom, what was accepted essentially as is, what was accepted with modifications, which most things that were accepted did have some modification. Text removal, which was an action taken. Some things that were not planned for the cycle because it didn't fall within those guideposts that we had set for real, in order to make change. So was it legal? Did it have impact to staffing against those points? And then the Scribner fixes, where as we were going through with the committee, sometimes we saw things that were, very minor, 2 spaces instead of 1 space, or maybe it needed a period, or just very minor things. And then the 19 cleanup of the interim deputy mayor references for trying to make that a smoother reading document. Councilmember Ammer.
So, our rules and procedure, point 16.2, clear saying ad hoc committee cannot take action in place of the full council and may only review and make recommendation, not decide which item move forward. However, this package or the slide you presented to us and feedback, it's really clear saying that decision being made in advance, where some item being pushed, others to next cycle, which not consistent with our rule 16.2. The committee could and should have present their own recommendation while bring back the full list of the council, the list we sent it, submission for discussion, and we reach out the decision. This is exactly how we done it last year. This table, if I'm in the public for transparency, will show council member Balding submit 13, item 12 of her item being accepted without full knowing and presented to all. While you chair this committee, that will raise question and create appearance that the chair agenda was prioritized over submission of the other council. Meanwhile, many moved to unmarked for next year. That's why last year, the way we done it, we have by each section, Sean was run it. We will have the recommendation from council, and she will open the comment from the other council, and we discuss it. I had to say my comment just reading this PowerPoint. I don't care if my item being accepted or not, but I like to have things fair. I like if we done it last year, we should consistent. I feel like now what my understanding, my interpretation, and I maybe be wrong, that we're being pushed to vote for something I don't think it's ready for us. Because it's like, that's what we have, let's vote while, I have to say one comment, because we deserve all these comments being sent, which was from you, myself, Kate, Tracy, Taylor, council member.
Thank you for your feedback. What I can say in speaking to this is that the committee took all of the feedback that had been submitted, and our mission was to go through, evaluate, and come back with a draft document. The document is now in discussion. And so this doesn't give preference to anybody. This is in fact transparent because it is showing what happened, where did it happen, and where did the different steps take place. Now, for anything that you feel still needs to come into the document, you have the draft and you know what your original requests were. If there's something that you feel needs to come back into this document, this is our full session. But what I can tell you is that everything that you had submitted was reviewed by the committee with staff and evaluated against the criteria of, does this keep us legal? Does this increase staffing? Does it fit with the overall themes that we have heard from all the recommendations and submissions? I'm not shy about the fact that 12 of mine got in. But what I can say to that is, separate from me being chair, is that many of those had come over multiple years of conversation and effort and being willing to tweak and make adjustments. And in fact, many of the things in here you'll see with modifications. The section on training, which has a number of different items and elements, is why you see that number increase ultimately artificially, because every single one of those points and bullets is represented as a different item. So it's not saying that an entire section is one of those. It's saying all of the sub-elements within that count as one of the items. So I just need you to understand that there was a question about who made what made it in, what reflected the changes. And ultimately, this is only representing the outcome. So we're in the original draft reviewed on June 6th. We have had continued conversation as a committee. We are having continued conversation. This was just to say what came out of committee into that first draft iteration. Do my other members of the committee have any feedback or input that you would add to that? Councilmember Rates.
I will honestly say with City Attorney Whalen, we went through every single one that people submitted. And it wasn't, there was no favoritism in that whatsoever.
Councilmember Ammer?
Nobody said favoritism or accuse anybody. My question is clear. What's our rules saying? You make your recommendation, you bring it to us with the color, and we still discuss it and we add the other. But the way you presented now, this is what committee did. Let's go back, we accepted. While if you go back, watch the video, I seen some of the training, we did not get consent at the time. We were 3 and 3. So there is no consent being done. And I seen the color being changed, like being approved. I think the best we do it the way we done it last time. You bring the committee comment, because the way I see it, decision being made, which shouldn't. You make recommendation and we still have our input. But the way I see it now, it being not the way it should be done. That's my opinion.
Councilmember Taylor?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I feel as though that is reflected here, and that this is a breakdown of that. And I feel that after having gone through numerous papers in that room and looked again, reiterating what was already said, I feel comfortable with this in terms of what was brought, because even if it was one person's recommendation over another person's or another person's, because there was some folks that had a lot of recommendations, and we looked at all of those. And so every recommendation, every recommendation was considered. And so for us to bring every single one of those recommendations back here into the chamber and go through each one of those line by line, that's kind of what the ad hoc committee was looking at. And so as a result of that, what we're bringing back is that we looked at everything that was submitted, and here's what came out of that. There's no final decisions of anything. What is said by accepted the modification was that the recommendation that was made after discussing it, it was accepted. And so that's not saying that we saying that this is the vote and this is how it's supposed to go, because every single recommendation was discussed. And when I say they was discussed, in my opinion, we want transparency. I think some of them were over discussed. And so again, I'm not sure what the question or the ask here is. And so yeah.
Thank you for your input, Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember Ammer, can we continue through the presentation?
Okay.
this is not debate or I'm asking easy question. Being discussed three or four, still should be in the comment. We will read it, but I'm still, unless, the way I see it now, we done it, that's what we want. Last time, we went through steps. And Sean did an amazing job, and it's still a record. We'll have this and said, I received this comment, and she will honor the person to present it, to see like this is makes sense or not. The way it's being done, interpreted by three people, then they decided and they make their decision, which again, I think this is against our rules 16.2. That's my opinion. Continue.
Can I,
Councilmember Taylor.
that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. When we looked at all of the comments that was made, that was exactly what happened. That's why the attorney and the city clerk were in the room. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what we did. And Sean said, I don't know about that one. Or, yeah, that's about, and then when it was appropriate for the attorney to chime in, that's exactly what happened. So it wasn't like the three of us sat in a room and said, oh, here's all the comments, let's sift through those, let's change let's leave out what was said here. Everything was discussed by the five of us. And the three of us were the committee, but we did get the same thing that you just said that you did when you were on the committee. We did the exact same thing.
Councilmember Briggs.
City Attorney Wheeling, can you weigh in on this if we did anything wrong?
This on? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
You should ask a chair to ask.
Looking at the provisions of your existing rule 16.2, I'm looking at specifically subsections A, B, and C. When the ad hoc committee was formed back in February, it would be my assumption that the ad hoc committee would perform their duties consistent with sections B and C, which I believe they did. The ad hoc committee under B shall consider matters referred to them and take action by majority consensus only when all ad hoc committee members are present. The chair of the ad hoc committee shall report to the council the findings of the committee. And then subsection C refers to, unless otherwise provided for when forming the committee, it's the intention of the council that the ad hoc committee function informally and not in a way that takes action in lieu of or on behalf of the full council. The purpose and function of the ad hoc committee shall be to review matters in advance of their consideration by the full council and perhaps record and make recommendations to the full council. From our perspective, the city clerk and myself, that was our observation of how the ad hoc committee performed the work. They received the input from all council members by a stated date, and they walked through each of them in detail, in my humble opinion, over approximately 12 hours worth of work. And in all of those meetings, I believe all members of the ad hoc committee were present. So I believe that the work performed, which is now the recommendation before the body as a whole, was done appropriately and consistent with your existing rules.
Thank you. Question to the attorney. I just want to make sure that I'm not even wrong. They will present their recommendation and we can still discuss the comment we have.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that I want to make sure that we need the color and the comment to be ready when we get to the point to discuss it. That's my request, because the way, if you read it here, if in 10 years they will come, not blame for this cycle, that means they made their decision which should not be this way. This slide should not be.
Tamara, you'll note it says outcomes in the first draft, which was the first draft that had been presented to council, not the final draft, which will have input from these sessions that we are all present and providing feedback in.
First draft, there is stuff we did not consent.
Point of order. Point of order. Comments already been made. Is there a question or is there just kind of, because you can't have it going back and forth?
I will state my comment. I'm not sure the chair did not say her comment. I'll state my comment. I believe that we did not consent for some of stuff from first draft.
and we can watch the video.
Thank you for your feedback. As we continue in today's session, which is another working session on a draft, to be able to get this in a ready state for vote. What we have presented in the packet is from our last meeting on June 23rd. So moving forward, what were the themes that we had from the original input that was received to council back in last spring? There were concerns about the perception of a hierarchy between the deputy mayor role and council member roles. There was a question about inappropriate oversight and tracking based on the language that was in the document, specific to the working relationship between the deputy mayor role and council member roles. There was many items related to concerns about being out of the loop or left out of information. And there was questions that were brought up regarding reimbursements and missed events for council members, so things related to attendance. Those were the key themes that we had heard from the various 90-plus inputs that we had as a committee. So our approach with that was to provide a framework and tools to support the legislative process. We wanted to provide general guidance to assist future council members and deputy mayors in understanding their responsibilities. We wanted to improve clarity related to the deputy mayor as a legislative facilitator and not necessarily a boss. We wanted to clean up any of that duplicative content, fix any Scribner's errors, and just provide a refresh to the language where appropriate. So with that, we have a quick overview of the legislative branch. City Attorney Whalen, I can click through these as you see fit.
Sure, thank you, Chair. Again, Jason Whalen, City Attorney, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council members. This was likely not new to you, the first two slides, but again, because it was a public document, we thought it was helpful for the benefit of the public as well for this process. So, you know, it goes without saying that Auburn's a mayor-council form of government. The public elects its mayor at large, as you know, and elects each council member at large as well. Council serves as the legislative body. Powers of the council as a legislative body are those found in RCW 35A.11. Those are the powers and authority granted to the council. The council as legislative authority, of course, has its role. When it comes to the role of the deputy mayor, which is the third slide, and I can correct any intentional confusion, if any, that was created by the slide, but the statute 35A.12065 does provide authority for the council to designate one of their members as mayor pro tem or deputy mayor, quote, for such period as the council may specify, to serve in the absence or temporary disability of the mayor. And that is indeed the limit, essentially, on the provision in state law for the creation of the designation of the deputy mayor. But statutory authority also provides that, of course, this council as a legislative body can enact its own rules governing its own procedures, including for the selection of the deputy mayor and the duties of that role. And that's what this council has done over the course of some years in section 12, which is in the current version. So while your current version indicates the deputy mayor can perform certain duties that don't conflict with that role of the mayor, you can change those. And as I indicated in an email to all of you today, I mean, Councilmember Ammer is correct that the statute doesn't outline the specific roles and duties other than just the designation of that role to stand in the stead of the mayor in periods of disability or absence. How you define the role of deputy mayor is how this body wants to act between and among themselves as a legislative body. And so we're here to kind of answer any questions you may have, but the roles between executive, obviously, as the mayor holds, and legislative, as you hold, are different. There's a reason to have a separation of power, and there may be a reason functionally and logistically to have the deputy mayor serve in certain capacities as the de facto quote-unquote lead or head of the legislative body, but that is completely up to this body to determine. Specifically the scope and duties of that particular person that you designate as deputy mayor.
Councilmember Ammer.
I review and I find what year they add the specific sentence. It was in 2000, I think 19. Just to be clear, this is not state law. That's why I sent my comment. Need to be clear, the deputy, that by section, so nobody or the public misunderstanding. And especially when we get to the point about one of my requests to add that duty when the mayor absent, how that being done, she won the lottery, how we will be function in her absent, like, which I haven't seen it being added when I requested. In case the mayor win the lottery, how we will do. One of my other requests as temporary will act, and anyway, when we get to this point, I want to talk about it to make sure to be an ad. But hopefully when she wins the lottery, will give me some.
Have to buy lottery tickets.
Thank you.
So, good faith, I think it's worth noting that the committee had given every item consideration, and what we attempted to achieve within the draft was to present a coordinated and refreshed document that would reflect the guidance of all council members while staying within those guideposts of the mission. So with that, as we move into discussion, I do think it's worth noting that there was something for everyone. So everyone who had made a request did wind up having something included in this document, but there wasn't anyone who got every last thing. In addition, we are coming towards the end of our 2025 year, and there, based on our current rules, is an expectation that there will be a 2026 cycle. So, as I had said at various points, is we'll iterate through this to the extent needed, but I do ask everyone to be reasonable in that as we make our progress, that there is room for continuous improvement and there is room to bring things back. So if it's not in there currently, or if there are areas of discussion that are unsettled, that there is the ability to bring it back again down the road. So I think that's worth noting. What?
You said bring it back. We still have time to add it.
Councilmember Ammer, my objective in this session is to get a majority of council to a position where we can move forward and take this to a vote. And what I'm looking to achieve within this meeting is active participation, active collaboration, and willingness. We have not yet gotten to the point to hear any additional feedback that you have for the draft document. I would like to get through the presentation before we open the floor for that. So if you can direct any comments for the moment to the presentation at hand, and when we get to that time to open it up, we can do so.
Could you clear to me, you saying this after the presentation, that means we've been done. I don't think we're here, we still have time. We may add and we review the stuff. I want to make sure that you're not in the mindset that we still being discussed and open it item by item.
Councilmember Ammer, I'm presenting the draft. I'd like to get through that. And then if there is specific feedback that you have for the draft, not line by line, but your highlighted bullet points that you may bring when we get to that point in the meeting, by all means bring those forward. But I do not plan to open this up and continue line through line.
We will continue line by line because that's what we did last year, Council. We need to respect each other and stop pushing people to accept.
Point of order. This is going into a back and forth, and that's clearly already violating one of the rules, is that you can't have back and forth. So if there's a question, then ask it, but I do believe that the chair is saying, can we get through the presentation? And
State your point. This is more.
And then we'll have ample time to come back and ask questions.
When you state your point, you have to wait for the chair, either to accept it or deny it, and I have the right to object on it.
Okay.
Just to be sure, because the way I see it, the chair over control and want us not to do what we did last year. I want to make sure that being said.
Councilmember Ammer? As chair, at this point, I do not intend to continue through the document line through line. And part of that is that process was not working for us as a group previously. What we have in front of us is a draft version.
Chair, I think will be best for us to stop and come next time, have Sean review and handle the situation. Because I think the chair made their decision, which I think that being ignored the council and not allowed the council because the chair wanted to be done next.
Council members, I think there was a point of order made by Councilmember Clinton Taylor and Councilmember Baldwin as the chair of this meeting. You rule on that point of order.
I believe it stands.
I object. I object and chair because I think both of them from committee, I'm being pushed, I'll make objection, I refuse the point of order from them.
Chair rule, it's not debatable.
Actually, it can be debatable. When you point, I can rule it and we can vote by majority vote if it, I'm just saying it.
I think in this meeting,
Are you appealing the decision of the chair, Councilmember Ammer?
Sorry, what?
Are you appealing the decision?
I'm appealing the decision of the chair. I think the chair became unfair.
Getting complicated, so I have to suspend the rules, and then there needs to be a motion and a vote, a second to vote whether or not to sustain the chair's ruling over the appeal of Councilmember Ammer.
Attorney Whaling, quick question. Within our study sessions, we typically don't have formalized voting, so I don't believe that we'd be able to have
Point
that
of
motion.
information, he said we suspend the rules. But with respect for the attorney, I would withdraw my appeal. He mentioned that we will suspend the rule to make a motion, but I withdraw my appeal. Let continues.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. As we go forward, just a reminder that we do have existing sections on deportment, interruption, and courtesy, and if we can all continue to do our best to stay focused on the material at hand. So within the document, I wanted to highlight key areas that were covered. So one of those was that there was an update to the study session agenda, and it was adding the council reports to the study session agenda to allow for more information and updates from the special focus groups into the full council meeting. And so that was one thing that had been accepted, and that was one of your recommendations, Councilmember Ammer. The committee had found that we thought it could be beneficial to allow for that discussion within study sessions and allow for having kind of that group opportunity to hear things. Are there any questions on that modification to the study session agenda to include council reports?
I know that's hard to do it this way because I know I submit a request to change to council published agenda that I would like, that's where it went to go, whereas I made the request that we need to be at least give us adequate time when change or anything to the meeting, at least even an email. So it will not be a last minute. It was a 3.1. That's why we need to go with the point, so we mention it, but that's okay. Let's continue.
So the modification to the study session agenda was one of your recommendations, and it had been incorporated into the document. Are there any concerns with this? Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
I'm gonna go back to section 3 and something that, it does kind of align with the study session agenda. Is there a possibility for some consideration on not having that fifth Monday. So we have 2 study sessions a month and 2 meetings, so we don't have to do a fifth Monday. Can that be taken into consideration here?
Thank you, Councilmember Taylor. That, to my knowledge, that has historically been handled as something that the deputy mayor would work with the clerk and mayor on to determine if there was any content for that session. What had been noted in the document was that that was sometimes earmarked for going through rules and procedures, but there's no reason that that couldn't be organized in a fashion to give that Monday back. And so that was, I think about 3 years ago, something I had advocated for was doing better forward planning in the year to know which of those fifth Mondays could be given back so people could plan vacations or trips or, those things that they need to do.
Sure.
To have more rigorous advanced planning and to incorporate that actually into retreats. So when you have your annual retreat, you set that expectation well in advance. I think there could be room for it, but my question to you would be, is that something that could come in the 2026 cycle as opposed to after?
Sure, no. I mean, I'm not opposed. I'm essentially planting the seed, thinking that this would be better for planning purposes for years moving forward.
I think it's a great question, and if you're comfortable, I would say we put that into the parking lot for 2026. Other council members comfortable with that approach?
I'm not.
I see consensus that it's all right to move that item as something to take into the next cycle.
Chair. I raised my hand. I'm still.
One moment, I'm taking a note.
We should bring it here. There is no reason anyway, whatever.
So I've got a note for fifth Mondays to be considered. And Councilmember Ammer, one moment. This item, the study session agenda, is not in reference to section 3. It is in reference to section 16.
It's 16.1D and 3.18. That's, I know what I'm asking for in both. And my question that it's the way it's written, I want to be changed, that the council member shall be notified as soon as modifications are made, rather than only at the meeting we get surprised.
And Councilmember Ammer, we have accepted section 16, 1D8, which is an addition stating council reports. It is added to the study session agenda where the deputy mayor or presiding officer shall facilitate this portion of the agenda by calling on each council member in turn, sharing topics of interest and or reports on special focus area matters, limiting their individual comments to approximately 5 minutes each. We accepted it there, and the item that you had brought up about being notified immediately on changes was determined at the time to be a concern for staff time and effort, that could create additional overhead for staff trying to get that out in that immediacy that you had requested.
That's why my comment, we needed to bring back the comment rather than ignore it and say, we discussed it and the staff, again, the comment which we did not ask the staff. I know the mayor, she does good job when there is any modification ahead of time, she give us note, courtesy note. But I noticed in study session, we get 3 times, we get shocked where we get modification. We are not putting it in the staff, we putting it in the presiding officer. That's my request. That's why we saying comment should be brought here so we can respond. I appreciate the staff.
All right.
That's my comment.
Thank you for your comment. Looking to council for the addition to section 16.1D8 for adding the council report to the study session. Do I see general consensus for the item that had been added? That is step 1.
Chair, are you ignoring my request?
No, Councilmember Ammer. And I would ask you please not to interrupt because I'm trying to iterate through the requests. You have 2 items on the table. The first one I'm speaking to, and the second I'll speak to after we get through the first one. The first one, do we have consensus for adding section 16, 1D8? It's on page 29, the council reports edition.
Can we open the
Councilmember
can we
Emmer?
open the rules, then we see it there, rather than look, can you put them side by
You
side?
have the attachment.
I know I have the attachment, but public does not, so if you present.
Point of clarification. Sorry, Chair.
One moment. Councilmember Taylor?
So when you're saying council reports, this is just essentially just sticking with what the SFA is and then what, I mean, I see the word for word, but I'd like a little more context behind that.
Yeah, the context is when we have our study sessions like this, they're typically meant to be informal. And in that meeting format, we have our call to order, our public participation, our roll call, agenda modifications, all the things that we're used to seeing on the agenda. Adding council reports as an agenda item creates a forum for us within our study sessions where if there was something from municipal or if there was something from finance, if there was something from, public works that we wanted to bring out of our meetings with the directors into this forum and talk about or have discussion, it's a space for share out. So similar to the council reports that we have at the end of a regular council meeting, it allows for it within study session. Council Ammer, in her items, had mentioned that she wanted to be able to have more of that information coming out of those committees into open dialogue. And so by adding it as a recurring agenda item on study sessions, it gives us that forum, which we may or may not use, Whoever's deputy mayor may go around and say, Clinton, what do you got? Hannah, what do you got? Tracy, what do you got? And we may use it or we may not use it. But the goal is to take advantage of the study session and use that forum. We thought it was a good recommendation. We added it in. Staff didn't have issues with it. Legally, it fit within the document. So it winds up being, sorry for everyone, this is the new language. So it was a net new addition and we worked the language to fit within kind of the models that we had. If we need to tweak it in the future, happy to do so, but this was our starting point.
Okay, so then for clarification on this one, especially to a new council members that would come into something like this, we need to make it pretty distinctly clear that we would discuss what comes out of our SFA, not as things that we go out and do to serve our public.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that that's articulated with on SFA matters.
Okay.
And then we of course have whoever's chairing the meeting to help.
Well, rein them in. Got it.
That would be the goal.
Thank you.
Finishing up, we've sharing it up top. General consensus, looking for nods. See nods. I think we have that accepted.
I have to say comment about this. Chair, I raised my hand, so please do not ignore me because I wanna add comment and responding to Councilmember Tracy. This is when I requested, will be a good opportunity for us to speak about special focus area and should be less than 5 minutes. Or if you're planning to go to event and you decided the last minute you're not going, this is the time you can speak up and request one of the council too, just to be clear.
So I think we're still accepted on that. All right, and then the second point that you had, Councilmember Ammer, you said the other one was that you had a need to have, can you repeat that for us? You said it was also applicable to section 3?
Yes. Actually, it's in both section 3.1H and 16.1D.
Passed it.
No, sorry.
H.
Agenda modifications?
Yes. We shall be notified as soon as modifications are made. Rather than we only get it in the meeting. Sometimes it's good, even the 5 minute, it means something to us to be ready and prepare. That's the only request.
My recollection on trying to change section 3H was that there was a concern from staff that that would create undue overhead. And so we incorporated it into the other section and left it off from this one.
We can add, should be the presiding officer, a chair, the one notified. We did not request it that come from staff.
Mayor Backus?
Thank you, Chair. Item H on here, agenda modifications, changes to the council's published agenda are announced at this time. That's only for the announcement to the general public. That isn't that the changes are given to you at that time, is that that's the place on the agenda where the announcement is made to the public.
So we had,
Councilmember Emmer?
So we had twice, when we came here, we had agenda modification when the deputy mayor was new twice at the beginning of the year, and we did not know until we were sitting. That's why I requested, and I can go back to look the reason. That's why I thought like it would be good for us to be notified rather than we sit. I can go back to find what was the change. Thanks, Mayor.
Mayor?
Thank you. The intent of clerks is to always provide any agenda modifications as early as they are known about. In some very, very rare instances, it is moments before a council meeting before that agenda modification would be known. Other than that, it is the direction and the intent of the legal department and clerks specifically that any agenda modifications are given to council and directors and mayor at the earliest moment possible. Because no one likes surprises. Unfortunately, once in a while, there may be a last minute change that has to come to the council floor. But other than that, we usually do not. Let's say there was a collective bargaining agreement that has been going on for months and months and months, and we just find out that the bargaining unit has voted to approve the contract. Wanting to make sure that that is handled as quickly and expeditiously as possible, we may say there is an agenda modification. We would also probably go into an executive session to discuss that. But there are going to be some times when agenda modifications may be made only moments before the beginning of a meeting. And I would ask that you allow for that flexibility with the understanding that the directors and the clerks make all of the amendments, agenda mods available to you at the earliest possible moment we can.
With that, I'm seeing heads nodding that we're comfortable with this item as it stands. And with that, I will go back to our presentation. So the second item with regards to the council agenda was new business. So in that space of feedback that we had from different requests was whether or not, essentially how to utilize new business effectively. And so there was much discussion and balance around the language that had been there previously in that space of no new surprises, but allowing new business to be used in a way that if council members do want to bring up issues for the full group and with the full group to be able to solicit other input, feedback, scope, if you will, that can happen within new business. And so that empowers the full group of council to provide that input without breaking forum, But we did want to put a limiter on that to make sure that we were avoiding kind of that in-the-moment surprise. And so the language that we had worked to accommodate that balance was, pardon me, on O, which was council members may raise issues of interest for future study as needs may arise, and the mayor and deputy mayor shall coordinate a future study session date for consideration. So giving room for things to come forward in new business without necessarily it triggering a full dialogue in that moment, simply using it as a mechanism to bring stuff into that pipeline for study session agendas. So trying to keep that within some boundaries, but also allowing new business to be utilized more holistically. Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. So, correct me if I'm wrong, this new business piece here, is this something that, I mean, I guess I have been of the understanding that new business could be discussed with deputy mayor then takes it to mayor, and then it becomes dispersed out to directors, and that's the reason why it has this discussion here in study session, correct? Am I wrong on that? Or this piece here states that we can openly discuss any new business during a study session without talking to staff or deputy mayor?
This is the council.
So,
This is a council meeting?
yeah,
Okay.
to clarify, this is the council meeting.
Got it.
and-
Sorry, I did not look at the section. I just looked at the paragraph.
It's all right, sorry. Clarifying, this is section 3, which is for setting the agendas for council meeting agendas. And so this is using new business to bring things forward,
Got it.
essentially. And we had heard from Councilmember Ammer and others that there's a desire that when new things come forward, to have everybody be able to hear about it, because people might have different things that they would chime in with, right? To say, oh, I want to know this aspect of something or that aspect of something, which is in new business, an area to give people a chance to either make a motion or have a vote. It utilizes council's new business. So,
Got it. Thank you.
Sorry, there's a bunch of hands at once. Mayor Backus.
Thank you. So I see that there is crossing out of the requiring any new business to be 48 hours prior to the council meeting. That was put in at least 1 or 2 iterations ago because of some gotchas and concerns over items being brought up on the council floor that were not appropriate for the council floor. I would highly recommend that remain in there. It's not trying to stifle council member discussion, but it's also allowing time to make sure that they are appropriate topics for the council floor. Because there have been times when that has not been appropriate topics.
Councilmember Ammer.
I want to comment about the time, because if you look to my first request, I prefer people get notified. So here, suddenly in the dais, somebody will say something which we shouldn't, or maybe illegal, and we put the city on legality. I think we should keep it as 48-hour prior. And we know sometimes we can still allow to add new business at the meeting by majority vote. So I don't think there is reason to remove the time. That's my opinion.
I see different feedback. My feedback on this item would be that it's not saying that people will, but it's saying that they may, that it creates a vehicle for people to use new business as part of the agenda, which to date sees very little activity. If we look at the council meetings that we've all participated in, I would say in the past year, we're not really seeing anything coming forward within our new business section. It's almost holding a placeholder on the agenda without real function. And so the goal with this is to create a home for that. Now, to the point of Councilmember Taylor, as well as the mayor, of not having gotchas, are we going through the deputy mayor, are we going through the mayor, are we, working with directors and the SFAs to put things on? I think the answer to that is yes, in our daily operations, we're seeing that as the function of new business.
Point of order. Chair should listen and ask people, not being like facilitate them first. There is suggestion and we should ask and not make your opinion. I know this is one of your point. As a chair, you have to facilitate and ask the other what they think about it, not just listen to us and ignore us. You need to listen for understanding, Chair.
Councilmember Ammer, that was an interruption while I was speaking. I would appreciate if you would let me finish before providing your feedback. I am also a member of council and the committee and have the right to share an opinion on this topic of how we can do our business as a legislative body. Councilmember Taylor.
After looking at that again, I don't see the issue with the 48 hours. I think it can still gel with the line that was added. So I don't see that as an issue.
Thank you.
Councilmember Taylor, to clarify, would you recommend keeping the new line and unstriking the previous? Or can you clarify your recommendation?
No, I would suggest you could put it back, and because we took out the language interim deputy mayor, so just to keep the language the same, it could say what it said: provide the mayor and the deputy mayor information regarding the topic 48 hours prior, and the council members may raise issues of interest for future. It can still flow that way. I don't see. I don't think one of the other crosses the other one out. I think the mayor's point is well taken. That, and again, when we're going through this is an opportunity to say, oh yeah, I guess I see your point there, and so I don't see an issue with putting that back. That's what I'm saying.
Councilmember Riggs?
I would have to agree with Councilmember Clinton Taylor, only because this just happened where a council member came to me and it was not appropriate to bring it up at council, so I'm glad that they did, so we could let them know.
Okay. So if we unstrike, council members are required to provide the mayor and deputy mayor, removing the or interim deputy mayor, information regarding the topic of any new business 48 hours prior to the council meeting, and then keep the new addition, council members may raise issues of interest for future study as needs may arise, and the mayor and deputy mayor shall coordinate a future study session date for consideration. Seeing nods? With that, Hannah? On the keeping the original, just ditch the or interim deputy mayor. All right, very good. In our deputy mayor section, so the deputy mayor duties, one of the things, well, not one, many of the things that we heard in this section is feedback from different individuals, was a concern about how the language in the document had created a perception, not an actual, but a perception of hierarchy for the deputy mayor position. So with that, every effort was made to reframe the role as being a coordinator for the legislative branch and removing language that could be perceived as creating a boss. So we did a fair bit of massaging of language throughout this section, with the real highlight being that the deputy mayor should be available to assist new council members as needed. So that individual is meant to be an asset and a resource for people who are coming into council, that when they have questions, they can go to them. Not to say that they couldn't go to the clerk or to the attorney or to the mayor or other people, but within the body of council members to be able to provide assistance for those individuals. Now, in that section, we also had notes that with the deputy mayor elections, the reality of the language as it is that council can trigger an election at any time if there's a majority vote. So I just wanted to highlight that to everybody in that space of whoever is serving, whenever they're serving, is that the body can call for a new deputy mayor. And in that space of deputy mayor, our understanding is that succession is a legal requirement to make sure that there's a plan in place on the chance that anything should happen to our mayor. Attorney Whalen, is there anything that you would add on this section?
No, Chair, I think the committee took the feedback from all council members into consideration. Our role as scribe did a good job of putting that feedback into the proposed revisions.
Thank you. All right, with that,
I have a comment.
Councilmember Ammer.
I know in 12.2, 2.3, assistant new council training consistent with 6.4. I thought it's fine. I feel like training should come from staff, not deputy mayor, because sometimes when a new council, they think deputy, it's go both way. Either you get good deputy mayor will be good train for the new council, or you get in deputy mayor who know nothing and they will influence the new council. That's why I usually think training should come from staff, which mine, when I had mine, I get it from the clerk, which was amazing. That's my opinion, because I know another council, they didn't get the same train I got. So that's one of the comment.
Councilmember Ammer, the reason that you'll see the consistent with Rule 6.4.2 is because we had clarified in training to remove any of the tracking language that had been there previously and to refocus that on that training was in some of those sections more suggested versus required, and that the required things would be handled by the clerk and attorney as is necessary. So I appreciate the concern, and I think that we have met that request and the spirit of the request with that adoption of the consistent with Rule 6.4.2 language. I'll also note that on 12.2A.3, where to which we're speaking, that had already been noted as accepted previously, I think, during that conversation regarding the changes to training. And I will go there now. Here, this is with new council member training. Who is next? Sorry.
I just have, it doesn't matter to me. Thank you, Chair. Maybe we add some language in this by saying, not specifically just the deputy mayor with the training of a council member, but deputy mayor and staff. Right. And including that in the language, I think would blanket where Councilmember Ammer is concerned. That way it's a full circle training instead of just reliant upon one person.
So, great feedback. To clarify, the reason that we see this here is because the section that we're in is related to the duties for intercouncil relations for the deputy mayor with other council members. So it's saying, hey, deputy mayor, these are your duties, which is for you to assist as needed,
Okay.
according to the rules. So it's not guidance for the new council members, it's saying when a new council member comes on, hey, Deputy Mayor, make sure that you're there to assist based on the
Okay.
training section.
Okay.
So I think if we tried to add that, it would add confusion, given that this is specific to tell the individual, these are your responsibilities. Does that help clarify?
Yes and no. I see so both sides of the coin here. I just think that the institutional knowledge, then, and again, I don't direct staff, this comes from the mayor, and whether or not that, I mean, but I believe that's part of the process. When you're onboarding a new council member. I just think that language would make a little bit of difference in this space, especially with the concerns of Councilmember Ammer and how she feels that, and I don't want to speak for you, but this is what I'm getting out of what you're saying, is that it shouldn't be the sole responsibility of the deputy mayor to train a council member. It needs to be a collaborative effort with everybody involved. That way they have the well-rounded knowledge going into that position.
And I agree, and I think the committee agrees,
Sure.
that's why we have the training
Got it.
section,
Okay.
which outlines that
Okay.
specifically.
And I guess then I'm misunderstanding, and that's, are we not on the training part?
No.
That's, okay.
That's why scroll. We are specifically in section 12,
Okay, because we were just at 12,
deputy
right?
mayor.
Okay.
So this is the deputy mayor's duties.
Got it.
Right? And there is a different training section that is
6.4.
two.
Oh, 6.4, yes.
Yes. Which is, sorry, like this mouse is backwards on me. Which is here, where we had clarified the training and who was doing it, and we took out the references to tracking, and we had tightened that up to remove that concern.
Got it.
Hopefully. So
Following.
I'm gonna jump to Councilmember Ammer.
So you just answered her and you said assistant if needed. Can we add that? So will not be their job. Then deputy mayor will not think, it's my job to train you. You don't know. If needed, then we'll give it the open. You just said that the assistant, if needed, you just reworded. You mentioned it when you answered Councilmember Taylor.
If it
Needed,
makes
yes.
a material difference to say if needed.
Yeah, so we'll give open both, like, to both. Deputy mayor could help, council no.
I don't see any concerns with that. I see nods, I see general nods. Councilmember Rakes?
I just have I need clarification on this. When I got appointed, the deputy mayor went through the training with me, just so you had somebody else there, and then we separately went through training with the rules and procedures and the stuff specific just for council. Is that what this is saying?
This is saying, current state says for the deputy mayor to assist in new council member training consistent with the rules of 6.4.2. So we'll read the rules of 6.4.2. We had left it. Council members are encouraged to participate in training offered by individuals, agencies, entities, and organizations, including but not limited to the Association of Washington Cities, Municipal Research and Services Center, which is MRSC, Jurassic Parliament, and State of Washington. This includes initial orientation after taking office and other required or recommended trainings. And it says the resources shall include a current copy of the Mayor Council Member Handbook produced by AWC and MRSC, a current copy of Mastering Council Meetings, a guidebook for elected officials and local governments from Jurassic Parliament, and a current version of the Rules of Procedure. Now that is being provided, but it doesn't necessarily indicate that you're going into a detailed overview. I think that would be at the discretion of the deputy mayor at the time and the new council member at the time. Councilmember Ammer?
So that means this is kind of redundant because when I been elected, I had the rules and procedure. I went with the deputy attorney and with the clerk. So, and I feel I got a lot of information from both of them. Comparing with other council, did not get it. So I think maybe shouldn't be deputy mayor. Because it's kind of now because we remove deputy mayor should not be track training, and now we said, assistant new council training consistent with rule 6.4. Kind of now we put back what we remove assistant training. That means deputy mayor need to keep track of the new council training. That's my opinion.
No,
Councilmember Taylor?
I think to simplify to back what was just said is as needed. I think that covers everything, and if I have a question for the deputy mayor, I could say, hey, because I did. I was like, I don't quite understand this. And hey, come on, I'll take a few minutes to sit down with you. We'll go over it. And that doesn't put me as I'm not the deputy mayor, but that wouldn't put me in the burden of having to sit down with you and having to do it, right? But if, you need some additional assistance. So the trainings are all there. There's been wording in 6.42. You should be taking these trainings, and then the deputy mayor may have the time and be available to assist with that as needed. So they're not also like, no, you need to meet with me, you need to do so that type. So I think it's a good trade-off, just adding that simple language in there as needed, consistent with the 6.42 rule.
I'm seeing consensus to add the as needed language. And we are accepting. For section 12 for deputy mayor, do we have? Actually, let me go back to the slides and come back to open forum for just a moment. Okay. All right. Our next slide speaks to self-management. So one of the things that we heard had heard as a committee is that council needs to do better as far as attending events and committing to being present at the events that we have RSVP'd to. So one of the things that we had heard was there was initial suggestion to do a chargeback for missed events. And we talked through this about 50 times over as a committee, and there were some concerns about the time overhead for staff to try and recover fees. And so one of the things that we incorporated was updating the rules to use council alerts for any changes that are happening to a committed event. So if you're a council member and you have RSVP'd yes for an event, as soon as you know that you cannot attend, you need to hit up council alerts the same way that you would if you were missing a meeting. So that way staff can know and be informed. And if we need to alert the people who are organizing the event that you're not attending, that we do so. And if we can recover a fee, that we do so as well. Now, that being said, we also recognize that we don't want to be wasteful with any city funds. And so in this recommendation, we recommended that we incorporate this process change to say, use the council alerts. And if we continue to see issues going into the future, that we could re-examine a cost recovery model for things that people have committed to but missed. The concern that we had about putting it in this cycle was there were a lot of questions on the staff side about, well, how do we do that through finance, or who's responsible, or does that go to who within the organization? So we're not against a cost recovery model. We think there could be a need for it in the future, but we want to give a little bit more diligence to how that could go into effect and what that would look like. So that was one that we saw, let's put this in place now, make sure that we're all discussing it as a group, that if you commit, you're going to be there, and use the council alerts like we should.
I know, I'm listening.
And then if we need to keep an eye on that and we need to bring that back in 2026, that we do so. So that was the balance that we tried to strike in, yes, we heard and agreed with that feedback, but we also want to give people kind of a step into that change if it's coming. So, Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee, for hearing my concern about this, because this is something that it's not just as a council we recognize, but as a community is recognized. And I'm super and deeply grateful for the fact that you guys really entertained this and you made this a point. I would like to see a cap on it though. Like until you do it twice, third time we start getting after you, you know? I really do. we are held to a high standard in our community, and every time that this happens, we let them down, and that's not what we're here for. So thank you, you guys. I appreciate this so much that you actually entertain this. So thank you, but I do think that we need to put a cap moving forward.
Do you, clarification, would you see that cap as something to be established in 2026? Or I think if we put the cap language in now, we still run into the challenge of
Whether or not we do it in 2026. Yes, I'm
Well-
following.
well, no, not that, but how does staff logistically execute once
Sure.
the cap is hit? So I think the recovery challenge is still there, even with the cap, even though I like it. But it's the mechanics that I think need some staff time to figure
Sure.
out a solution.
And I'm open to that. I'm super glad that we're gonna have this so people don't think
Right.
that we're flakes, you know?
So my only problem with this, I'm for this too, but if you have a true emergency,
Call a council member. Somebody can pick up.
but maybe they couldn't go, and then you're stuck. That was the only thing that came up that we talked about.
Sure.
I don't know what the answer is, but I know that happened to me this year.
Point of information, can we see the language written there? Because I thought it's written, it's clear. If there is emergency, there is,
Yeah,
I
and
saw that.
that was part of the mechanics piece that
Okay.
we think needs a little bit more time to process a solution on.
But I don't know who determines the
And I
Real
think that would need to be a combination of people in that conversation. So it was added as 17.8, council attendance. So if a council member commits to attend an event, all efforts shall be made to attend the event, given potential city funds expended and community expectations of attendance. If an emergency arises where the council member cannot attend, the council member shall send notice to council alerts as soon as practical.
Yeah, it's good, no?
Accepted.
Yeah, because I might have an emergency.
You flaw.
Yeah, to be fair, I think it was also the lived experience of the committee members. We all had significant losses this year, and challenges with family members that were in, critical healthcare situations. And so recognizing that there could be a circumstance where you do intend, to be there, but you can't necessarily control what's happening. So we tried to find a good balance to at least get that door open and started, and we can continue to refine this and add more to it, just like your suggestion. So very good.
Repeat offender will not be allowed.
In this space, there was a question. This one came actually from staff as a request. So not all requests came from council members. And this was with regards to per diem overpayments, which are a little different than events. So this was to add language to enable the council administrative assistant to arrange for an automatic deduction with reasonable notice. And so, Councilmember Ammer?
Yeah, can you show it where it's written? Because I like it. It's save everybody time and save staff time hunting people, some they don't respond, so I love it. But I wanna see.
I believe it is,
18.4.
yeah, 18.4.
That's it. Shall be reimbursed to the city.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing consensus on this one.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's accepted. Look at us go.
Don't be doing it.
And then into the other one on this was, we had some questions regarding dress code that sort of surfaced along the way. So there were no changes made to dress code, and in part that was because we already have our existing city appendix that guides sort of dress code guidance, which is the City of Auburn's sort of dress for the day guidance, which we are sticking with. Councilmember Ammer.
I submit request, and again, we're not talking about who's in the position, we're talking about the position itself. that as temporary, deputy mayor as temporary, they should not obtain official clothes saying uniform, brand, material reflecting their title as a deputy mayor. For one, it's cost and it's temporary. Deputy mayor may be 1 year, 2 years, maybe 1 or 2 years. So that's why I thought we should not doing it, and they use the name tag. That's was the request.
I think the challenge on that one is that for someone who is in that position, that is their title. And the same way that they're able to have a badge made or they're able to have a nameplate made, I don't know is that there's a difference in potential spends as far as other items. Mayor Backus?
Thank you. So there are limits on how much can be spent on clothing. Our finance director, if she was here, would be happy to tell you that there are expectations that council does not get a lot of clothing each year, which has been the case in the past. Perhaps there could be something put in there that the deputy mayor, if they want a piece of clothing with that current title on it, they would pay for that themselves. But council, which would be any council member, would be able to get one item every 2 years, something along those lines. I mean, there are limits on what the expectations are and how much is spent on logoed clothing by the departments. And so if it's anything other than the normal council member, that it could be paid for by the deputy mayor themselves, might be able to cover that concern.
Thank you, Mayor, for that feedback. I think the question is if someone has their portion to spend, how they spend it would be to them unique to their role and position. Councilmember Rakes?
Yeah, I want to speak to that because I did buy my own, and the city did put the logo on, but I bought my own clothing. But what's the precedence from before for deputy mayors? Because they've all had stuff that say deputy mayor on.
I don't know that they all have. I mean, I think it's more of a, if I may.
Mayor.
Thank you. I don't know that they have always had something because there hasn't always been a clothing allowance for deputy mayors. When I was a deputy mayor, I had a badge, and that was it. Anything that we had was council. It's been very generous in the past for council members to select clothing every year, and finance director has chatted with me about that not being the option any longer. There's, I believe it may even be in city policy or code on how much can be spent in a year or 2 year period. Anything above and beyond that would be the financial responsibility of that council member or deputy mayor, if that's their title at the time. Some deputy mayors have wanted something, some are happy with just the badge. So it's personal.
I think Councilmember Hammer had her hand up first and then Councilmember Rakes.
Just for clarification, when I put this request, I did not put it for any specific person and title. I put it as a generic from now and 10 years. That's the meaning. It's not, as we mentioned, and if you look to our rules, we said the deputy mayor, we can vote at any time. We can change. So if this is the language we have, that's mean I think will fit our language. Because it's temporary, maybe we'll elect deputy mayor 2 months and they would decide that this is not good fit for them. That's why, that's for me, for just try to save money.
One item before we get to Councilmember Rakes is I think And Attorney Whalen, you might chime in on this. I think there was a concern about trying to micromanage things that tie back to individual expression. So if somebody has a clothing allowance and they're within their allowance, and if they have their title for whatever their position is, trying to get it into this to say what someone else can do when they're in their position, I thought could be infringing on, frankly, some First Amendment rights.
There's a danger and a page limit to being too prescriptive in the rules. It seems to me there's some value in discretion. Everyone knows when they are or are not the deputy mayor, and if they bought a clothing item with their appropriate budget one year and aren't the deputy mayor the next, then they probably shouldn't wear the clothing item. So I think if you put too many prescriptive restrictions here, it just gets cumbersome. I think people are here in good faith, and this is supposed to be a guide for essentially how you're working by and among yourselves as a body, not worried about clothing items.
Councilmember Ricks?
I would say too that it's not costing the city any more money because you're not using your budget for something that says council member on it. So it's not really using any more money. Well, that's just my opinion.
I'm not seeing consensus to reincorporate that specific language. Okay. All right, council listening sessions. So council is responsible for setting strategic goals for the city through legislative policy making based on community input. This section would establish protocols if these sessions are needed in the future. So this goes back to
2.7.
what was that?
2.7.
2.7, thank you. To 2.7, and I will bring up the language on that. Council may conduct community listening sessions as desired. However, any staffing or logistics desired for such listening sessions must first be approved by and coordinated through the mayor. The purpose of these meetings will be to provide a forum to hear from the community on topics of interest. The community listening sessions may be held at various locations throughout the city and may be facilitated by the mayor, deputy mayor, a member of staff, or a third-party facilitator. For OPMA purposes, these meetings shall be considered special meetings of the council and shall be coordinated with the mayor, city attorney, and city clerk. So this was one that, for context and history, I had brought forward. I had done research on what tools other councils were doing and had heard at AWC conferences that other communities, such as Pasco and I believe Puyallup and others, were doing this type of activity and having really great results. And so had brought this forward, and I know we've talked about it previously and we've iterated a couple of times, I think, around the language, and I had brought it back. And so I think in the last session there had been a question of what would be a comparable code city with a mayor council body that is doing this similar work, because there was a question of, was it other types of cities where they were doing that, or was it a code city with a mayor council structure like we have here in Auburn? And I did find a good example of that with the city of Issaquah, Washington. And so if you want it, I had given copies of the language in their rules and procedures for reference. Hannah has them if you want them. I didn't have a chance to get it into the presentation, but I did pull that out if anyone so desires. So this really is not to say that we're gonna do it, but it creates a tool and direction for how we could, if we so chose to, in the future. I think we've seen really beneficial results from the mayor's community conversations that have happened, and the mechanism here is that whereas with those we could only have 1 to 2 council members at a time, with these it would be full council being able to attend and have more informal conversations with community members. Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. So give me,
Examples.
well, no, I'm just trying to think of how I want to phrase this. So give me how this would work. Would it be like one council member says, hey, we want to do a listening session, Mayor, are you okay with it? Or is it, hey, I want to do a listening session, everybody vote on who wants to do this? What if you're just the only person, or maybe there's only 2 people that want to do that? And if you want to be a council listening session, I would recommend, well, I shouldn't say recommend, I would, well, I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. I'm tired and I'm sick, so I'm trying to figure this out. So would this be of the majority vote to do this, or would you be like, hey Cheryl, let's go do a listening session and not tell everybody? How would you, like, I'm just trying to get an idea. Again, I'm sick, so.
That's fine. So I would look at, like, one community that I think is doing it really well is Pasco, and they're not a Code City Council mayor, Issaquah is. Their example is just very basic, which is they say the city council will hold community listening sessions. The purpose is to provide a forum. They keep it very loose. They say that for them, the frequency of these meetings is determined by the city council annually, and these sessions will include 1 or more agenda items of community interest. The meetings for them are chaired by the mayor, and they are considered special meetings. So
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to run over you. Who comes up with the agenda? The council member does? The community does? Who do you work with in this? Like, how does that, what was give me the formatics for it.
Right.
What would that look like?
Let me respond and I'll claim. So what I had seen in Pasco is they have had special topics, right? So one was about whether they wanted to bring, change their city code so they could have cannabis retail businesses. And so they had like a multi-meeting listening session because the council didn't feel ready to take on that topic without hearing what the community felt about it first. And so that would be one example. They also had one about fluoridation in water. And so I can't say what brought those topics up to them because that's unique to their community. I would expect for us, in the same fashion, if we hear about things. So an example contemporary to our community might be something about the issues with like the food vendors that are happening. Just throwing it out there, not saying that we will or that we are. I would expect that this would be executed in a similar fashion, the same way you would try and get new business on an agenda, which is to bring it up with deputy mayor or to use our legislative forums to say, I want to make a motion, have a vote, see if everybody, votes in the affirmative. Because ultimately, if there's any cost associated, that is also needs to be voted in the affirmative, right?
Right.
And so I don't see it as someone running off and having their own solo, roadshow with it. It's what's relevant happening in the community where council as a body essentially wants to have a special meeting unique to that topic.
So,
Councilmember Hammer.
Because I usually get scared for misuse the city budget for campaigning. I'm running for office, let's use it. It's time to do community listening. I think we need to add the council may conduct community listen session as desired by majority vote. So if I wanna go, then I have no reason. I think we need to do it.
Majority vote.
By majority vote. And after the mayor, because we cannot just go,
Right.
what's the reason? Because one thing, you use the example for code change, we should not be listening. Yes, we should, but we have the planning commission, we have the staff do their job. So sometimes this is the gray area where bias will come, because when you go and you be friend with the people and you vote, this is where we go the assumption in public that we may vote because we went to this event. It's a gray area, we need to be specific, stay away.
I would be happy to add the language the council may conduct community listening sessions as desired and approved or approved by a majority of council.
Go ahead, Mayor. She had her hand up before I did, sorry.
She did, but I was trying to address Councilmember Amherst and then I was gonna come to the mayor. So, Mayor Backus.
So there was a question earlier about, well, what if just a couple of the council members want to go off and have this listening session? The way this is written, you cannot do that because you have to have a quorum of the council in attendance for there to be a meeting, right?
Okay.
Without a majority of the council in attendance, you cannot hold these meetings.
Correct.
So.
Okay.
That is correct. Councilmember Amher?
I need just clarification.
Okay.
So, but still need to be vote. If I'm planning to go to Hawaii to have community meeting, whereas I know 10,000 people, I think we need to have it before even we decided or how that will work. Or two people can decide it. I need to understand like what will trigger it.
Councilmember Amher, I think adding the language as vote or as approved.
Consensus of council, which would require a majority.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a majority vote of the
Oh,
council.
we can have it in the during the regular meeting. We can have it during as a part of the agenda so we can vote.
That is something that I expect would come up with new business, for example. The other option for this, when I had been working on the research for it, was thinking it was something similar to Issaquah, where when we do our annual planning, like our retreats, that if we identify like anything in those sessions would be another opportunity to say, hey, you know, here's what might be a good topic going into the future. So at this stage, it's really about creating what that might look like, but excuse me, creating what it might look like. But it's not to say that this wouldn't be tweaked or improved upon into the future. And I'm comfortable adding the language as recommended by Councilmember Amher. And the goal would be to have as much of council there as we could.
Well, thank you. I guess I'd like to see maybe some language on how we develop an agenda for such as well. I mean, like, how are we vetting those topics? Are we crowdsourcing? Like, I'd like to see how, like the agenda, how we would form an agenda for a listening session.
I would assume with the same voting mechanism.
Okay. But how would we get that information? Because one person emails us and says one thing, are we going to go on the approach that this one person has one thing that they want to talk about, but the rest of the community does? Like, I feel like there needs to be a mechanism in place to be like, okay, there's a group of people that want to talk about this, or, you know, there's, you know, like you had mentioned something about the street vendors and whatnot too. I feel like that there needs to be a little bit more to this instead of just like, well, I got an email and they want to talk about this. It doesn't mean everybody else wants to too.
I firmly agree with that, which is why we also have the ability to vote it down, right? Which is to say, yeah, no, there's not enough interest for that. So I see both approval in the affirmative as well as a rejection being possible in the vote. For the agenda, I would think that would surface through the conversation of council if there was a study session planning for it. What that language might look like. Attorney Whalen, I know that you do comparable listening sessions for Lakewood. How do you guys form your agendas?
Typically, it's a single topic of interest, and staff puts it together, notices the meeting, council members show if they wish, and usually a staff person presents the topic or helps facilitate, and then we receive feedback.
Okay. Councilmember Taylor.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think that could be without being even more descriptive. I think that could be in the approved by and coordinated through the mayor. That could be where that could be talked about. Like, yeah, I don't want to be having a meeting about that.
Sorry, I looked away. Because you're not raising as often, Councilmember breaks, and then we'll go.
Could it be, almost all subjects would fit into one of the focus area groups?
Presumably, maybe?
Presumably, I was gonna say, could that recommendation come out of a special focus area group?
I would think the recommendation or the request could come from anywhere, and then council would hear it. Presumably in the request, they would say, here's a topic of interest, and, you know, I would think there might be an agenda or suggestions with that would be guiding. Councilmember Ammer?
It came to my mind. So we had the listening session with the community and we tried to have it open listening. How that different? Because we had the listening session and we tried to be easy in the staff. Now you have a whole council there. We need to have a staff to take a note. The person in the back said, so how that different than the community session we already had? Why we need to add it? It just came to my mind. Can somebody explain to me?
The reason for this is to more specifically allow all of council to be there. I think in the community conversations that were held, that those did have kind of a key topic, which was community safety for a stretch, but we weren't able to break our quorum rules in that event. What this does is it creates a forum for all council to be present and have informal conversations that are longer than a 3-minute presentation and talk about whatever is relevant to the city at that moment. So, Hannah, can I ask that you distribute the example language? I think one of the things that I had liked about the Issaquah version is that they kept it pretty loose as far as their rules of procedure. And I assume they're doing that because when an area of need comes up, they can be flexible in what they want that to be. Now, when we had gone through and iterated on this, we wound up becoming more specific in our language because of concerns that we were hearing from the mayor and other council members in the different moments of discussion on this topic coming forward. But we could be more flexible with the language. I do think it would be a beneficial tool to have in our toolkit, but it doesn't mean that I expect anybody to run out and immediately be trying to utilize it.
Can you propose that we move this to the 2026 so we get our time for us as a council to look, to think about it? Then when we go to AWC, communicate with Issaquah, communicate with other towns. I like it to think about it before we put it so we can move it to 2026. Because I see there is a lot of concern for me for this. And they cannot just read it. Now, I think we need to think because when we did the community listening, we all get to go there and we were able all to listen and to hear and we didn't miss anything even when we went as a part. So how that different? We were the first in the PowerPoint, we said we try not to add more work on the staff. This is actually will add more work on the staff and the legal. I feel more comfortable if we save it for 2026 to think of it.
I think the benefit, thank you for your feedback. So if we go back to the presentation, you are correct that we are not looking to increase significant overhead for staff. But we did also have the guidepost of, we also wanted our changes to serve the community. And so if the community wants to sit down with council and have a discussion with us, the limitation that we had with the community conversations, and I personally speaking, do feel it was a limitation that we couldn't have the full body there because each of the different sites had a slightly different attendance, had a slightly different feel, especially for that first round where it was more open discussion at the different tables. Because even within one event, there might be different tables having different conversations. I think the real benefit here is the ability to have full council in attendance so everyone is hearing the same information at the same time. I think to your point of, could we continue working on refining it through 2026? I think the answer is yes, but I also don't see harm in adding it into the document now and then continuing to make changes as needed. I think there's always a point where you have to start and then make adjustments. We had seen that with some of the training section in that language that we've gone through and made modifications, and I don't see harm in adding this now. And we had worked quite diligently to try and have something that would be a good starting point for this. So. Do we have consensus to accept the section as it stands?
With the inclusion of some language, yes. With the, what, Attorney
The as needed, or the with the majority vote?
By majority
Yeah.
vote. So-
Yep.
Yeah.
So the council may conduct community listening sessions as desired and by majority vote of the council.
Yes.
Still need homework.
Okay. All right. So I think I'm seeing consensus with the adjustment to get us started and then be able to continue working on that. Okay. So accepted with majority approval.
Oh, it's only me who was like, oh.
Okay. And then group presentations. Now, this is something that the protocol already existed in that group presentations from the community to council are coordinated through the clerk. But it wasn't something that existed in the document as far as letting council members know how that happens or how that goes about. So that was added. Sorry.
10.1.
Sorry, I should have got the numbers.
Section 10.1.
Yes, 10.1, thank you. Which is. Groups desiring to be scheduled for presentations on a council meeting agenda shall coordinate through the city clerk. So that had come up, and when we asked, they said, oh yeah, we already do that today. And we're like, okay, how do you do that? And I said, they coordinate through the clerk. I said, okay. There we go. So pretty basic on that front. Do we have any?
I have a question.
Sure, Councilmember Amber.
So group desire to be scheduled for presentation council meeting agenda shall coordinate. Okay, that means they'll not come decided at 5 p.m. that they want to show up. Is that what's meaning that they give the clerk at least time? Okay, I want to make sure nobody will send us presentation at 6:45.
Yes, the
Okay.
presumption there is that the clerk's office has been handling that in the past. Groups have come forward, and so this is added specifically, so if as council members you're out in the community and someone says, hey, you know, we really want to come share about our event or our activity or something we're doing, okay, great. You can reach out to the city clerk and I'll give you that to coordinate. So I'm seeing general consensus. Councilmember Ammer?
Can we add limit in the presentation? Because I can make you presentation for 1 hour and a half. So can we put certain time?
Won't be allowed.
That's what I'm saying. Can we put time?
I don't think the clerk allows it.
Make sure do not add somebody for hour and I can't.
No, they not.
All right.
Limit to certain time, 15 minutes.
I think we leave that to the clerk to decide.
Okay.
All right, so I think we're accepting that. Okay. This one, I had heard in one of our previous meetings, Councilmember Sturgis had brought it up, I think in at least 2 different occasions that she had wanted to bring this forward. Now, this is one that, as you can imagine, was not submitted with the initial recommendations back in the spring, but she had made note that she wanted to bring it forward. And so trying to find a good fit for this was, so this is new, not new, is that she'd said we should have an annual police ride-along for each active council member. And so based on the previous discussion regarding limitations of requiring trainings for council, if y'all remember, we've said, yeah, you can't force people to do certain things, as well as concerns about who or how that would be tracked and how that tracking would be achieved, and the overhead of that potentially. What we thought might be a good accommodation for that request as a starting point would be to modify that section 6.4.3, where training may include, and there's the bullets of all the different, potential training someone may do, is to add to that list an annual police ride-along as something that someone could take advantage of, avail themselves of. Councilmember Ammer.
Can we include it without to be annual? Because actually, when we go ride along with them and they know the assistant chief can confirm that we would take the officer away or we add over, I feel like ride along, but at least maybe twice in the term, not annual. That doesn't mean I don't want to do it.
So
we keep it option, we remove the word annual.
I think, trying not to speak words into Councilmember Sturgis's mouth, but based on what she had said, she had been very specific that she thought it should be a recommendation for annual. However, because all training is simply recommendation, I would be comfortable accepting her language that it stay annual, because it's still optional for council members. They may use it, it may be recommended, but they do not have to.
Point of information. A recommendation being provided, it should come from here. If you're not here, you do not have a proxy. I'm just going to clear it to the chair. So that's the body here would decide it. So you're not here. That's what I'm.
So, the reason I had incorporated it into the presentation as a new request was not whether she was here or not here, but because I had heard it in meetings and public meetings where we had all been present as a council body. And so I didn't want to dismiss that new information coming into the conversation, regardless of proxy or not. I thought we could have it quickly as an item to cover or not cover. If we're not comfortable discussing it tonight, we could earmark that and recommend it be part of the 2026. I thought it was simple enough that we could add it without too much concern. But Councilmember Taylor?
I think the wording here may include kind of covers that, because I may never go on a White River Valley Museum tour. So.
Your loss?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm saying just, I mean, these are all may include trainings. I mean, there's other trainings that we may take that aren't even listed here.
Correct.
So.
They're all meant to be recommendations for someone coming in new to the position for things that they would want to consider or make part of their, plan. Is that a hand up?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Sorry, I'm like, I am of the opinion that training should include, just so you have a basic understanding of what is happening within our community. May is kind of passive, should is kind of encouraging. I think should include. I mean, I'm just saying, you really don't know your community until you've been in the community, so.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Sorry.
I think 6.4.3 used to be should, and then it was softened to may based on input of council members present.
Right.
So I'm happy to go back to should.
No, I think to really have a good basic understanding of what is happening within your community, you really should be on a ride along. You really should.
Yeah, but
I mean, it's not for everybody, I get it, but you have a good understanding.
Trying to get consensus if we can add that as a bullet under 6.4.3, which is currently may include to all of the items on there. I'm seeing a yes.
Are you saying may include or should include?
Right now, I'm trying to see if we can add the annual police ride-along bullet to 6.4.3.
Yes.
Okay, so, and with that bullet added, do we need to modify to be more directive yet not directive with the should, that training should include these things?
my hand was.
Yes, Councilmember Hammer.
So just for clarification, I'm the one volunteer with the police for 14 years, so I understand the need. But I think I want to keep it more opening, not over you abuse. That was my comment. But I've been notes which not direct to anybody, any of my comment being not accepted, while the other, and I see if I say same word, other council will say it will be accepted, which again, we should listen to every comment from all council, just for chair, for your awareness.
Councilmember Taylor?
I think just to stay consistent with what we were trying to do when we were back there was to honor the recommendations that we heard from multiple council members, taking out words like shall and must, right? And so I'm okay with training should include, that still leaves the door kind of open, like the training should include blah, 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 without going back to saying training shall or you must, because that was a pretty common theme throughout what we were hearing, which is why we went back and really looked really closely at a lot of the language that was in there, because that was pretty adamant that a lot of council members wanted a lot of that directive type language reviewed and considered for removal. So I'm okay with should. I don't think that's something that we.
It still leaves it open to whatever you're
Right.
comfortable with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm okay with should.
so changing, training should include, as well as the new bullet for the police ride-along.
Yeah, we add that down.
And are we adding it as annual police ride-along? I'm saying
I'm
not.
okay with that.
Yes.
Doesn't matter my opinion, so I'm not saying it. Honestly.
Don't say that.
I'm doing my best to coordinate. All right. That was the end of what we had for the highlights in our presentation, but we're not necessarily done. Mayor Backus?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have one point of clarification, and it's 16D8 on page 29. This goes back to similar language of under new business. So under the council reports, the deputy mayor or presiding officer shall facilitate this portion of the agenda by calling on each council member in turn, sharing topics of interest and or reports on SFA matters. It's the sharing topics of interest that concerns me, that is a way to get around doing it at a council meeting under new business, because the same restriction isn't in here.
Which one again, Mayor?
It's on page 29, 16.1 or 16D1.
Got it.
Or 8, pardon me, 16D8. I'm just concerned that this becomes the way to get around the 48-hour requirements under new business, and it would be brought up at a study session when in fact it may not be an appropriate topic for council floor.
So, Mayor, can you clarify for me who gets to decide what's appropriate topics for council and who doesn't?
Well, sometimes there are legal issues and things that should not be brought up on council floor. And that's the reason that we had the 48 hours in new business. It's not to just limit the voice of the council. It's to make sure that it's an appropriate topic for council floor, because as I mentioned, there are times when something has been brought up on the council floor that it really should not have been, that could have put us in a liability situation legally. We could have been sued for some of those topics. So I'm only bringing that up because I just don't want this to be the end around from the same thing as new business.
And I think that's important. The concern that I have is about putting limitations on, and I'll come to you once I have provided response. The concern that I have is putting limitations on a forum and opportunity for council to have discussions as legislators, to look at new things coming forward. To the concern about people saying things that could be risky or could bring lawsuits, that could happen at any point in a meeting, whether that's in old business, new ordinances, general comments.
Less likely though.
I think it's a question of risk management, right? If you're saying that having a defined agenda for council reports has better risk management by having some type of clearinghouse ahead of time, I think the concern that I have is that that could be potentially limiting to people who want to use that time to bring up topics and have that discussion, and to do so in a place where there's not concerns about breaking forum rules. Now, when we have these meetings, we have our attorney, we have yourself, we have clerks, we have our directors and deputy mayor and different people to keep us in check so we don't go down those paths. I think there's always a risk that someone could bring something up, and if it's not appropriate, I would hope that in that session that we would raise our hand and say,
But it could be too late.
I don't think we can take every bit of risk out of the work of legislation.
But you can put some guidelines around it so that it is less likely to happen.
Councilmember Ammer?
So I'm listening to the mayor to understand, to clear to the chair, because I think the message did not get there. I think sharing topic of interest should be notified 48 hours ahead. Because we've seen that will not limit the people, but to allow to the new people to understand there is some topic, airplane hitting, by the way, in a street. This is not the topic we be talk about it. I think as a person who work for regulation and follow document, I think we need to remove that or give notification, because we're not speaking, it be too late. And I see city being sued for word coming from council. To protect the city and the funding, I think we need to tweak it and change it.
Attorney Whalen, have you any examples of other cities that have had lawsuits as a result of general discussion in a working session or in a study session type meeting?
Nothing comes to mind, Councilmember, off the top of my head from my experience with the mayor's raising her hand. She may have some thoughts there.
Mayor Backus?
Yeah, there was one point in time when there was a housing discussion. And one of the council members, because there was a proposal that was going to be coming forward for senior housing. And one of the council members said, we already have too much senior housing in this city. And the developer sued the city because it felt like it had been biased. Council was biased against senior housing. So that's a very real life example of someone bringing the topic up and saying we already have too much senior housing in the city and the developer suing the city over it. And won.
Okay.
That's why I get a little nervous about this, because I was on the council at the time when that occurred, and wasn't a fun thing to find out that one of my peers had made a comment that cost the city a great deal of money. It wasn't intended to be a gotcha, but it turned into something that, had they made the comment earlier to the mayor, to legal, and said, hey, I'm really concerned about this proposal because I think we have too much, they would have been told, don't say that on the council floor. That's not an appropriate statement for a council member to make. It could put us in a situation where risk management is not going to be favorable. I'm just trying to keep us out of having lawsuits or problems where topics that nobody is going to say you can't talk about housing, you can't talk about homelessness, but there are certain areas that should be avoided, especially publicly. And I'm just trying to make sure that this isn't the end around to the 48-hour notice on new business. Just trying to make a consistent.
Trying to meet in the spirit of collaboration, what if, and I'll call on you in just a second, Councilmember Taylor. What if we entertained something in the space of Deputy Mayor and Mayor will be informed of topics, but not necessarily gatekeeping?
Prior to, yeah.
Yes, it would be a prior to. So to be informed of the things someone might want to bring, that they plan to discuss.
Yeah.
So if there needs to be conversations related to sensitive topics, there's an opportunity ahead of time, but that it is not limiting to what that individual wants to discuss.
There could be some very, very encouraging direction from staff, from legal, from risk management, from police about that, warning council member that if they continue to move forward in that direction, there are some very severe consequences.
Would that be a good meet in the middle?
I think that's fine, because hopefully the council members will want to abide by
I don't think any council members
being
looking
risk averse, right?
for a lawsuit. What if we did language, something along the lines of council members will provide a highlight of their report to mayor and deputy mayor ahead of study session? Council members, do we feel that could be accommodating?
Are you saying may, or are you saying
Shall.
will?
Sorry.
Because, I mean,
Sorry, no. Reasonable question. See what it says on the other one. Council members will provide the mayor and deputy mayor information on their planned council reports. 48 hours ahead of study session.
I like that. Yeah.
I don't know if I can repeat that again, but. Hannah?
Council members will provide the mayor and deputy mayor information on their
Council reports.
council
a new business.
24 to 48 hours.
48 hours ahead of
concern about
study
this.
session. Councilmember Taylor, sorry, I know you
No,
had your hand
that's
up.
good. I was just gonna ask if we could, where was the middle? That's what I was gonna ask is, I mean, I think that was, you know, I appreciate trying to find some middle ground there and not be dug in on that. So that's good. I like that.
I think that works, I'm seeing nods. Councilmember Ammer?
Are we finished this one? Because
Yeah. So,
I'm gonna move to the new one.
all right, so we're through the items that we had, Councilmember.
So
If
we
you have-
need to open the ad because I see some stuff there, we need to discuss them. Like ad hoc 16.2, I see like in C, we add public testimony related to topic. I'm surprised, ad hoc, it's usually when we work ad hoc, we work in relation something to us. So what public testimony we have to this, the new sentence you had?
Which section was that, sorry?
16.2 C. I think it would be best if we open the new change.
I'll bring it up.
Thank you. Get back home, this one.
According to public testimony received.
C.
Yes.
Yeah.
16.2C.
So, 16.2 is in relation to ad hoc committees, how they're formed and what they do. C was saying that, so the ad hoc committee, if there was any public testimony, so if there was a topic for an ad hoc committee where public testimony might be needed, is that testimony might be coordinated through the committee to put it on the agenda for full council to hear it. They're not gonna go hear it in a different meeting. They're gonna bring any of that public testimony to the full council following OPMA rules. And so, yeah, sorry.
So I need just clarification, because again, as ad hoc, the ad hoc committee will discuss the issue related to them and they will come to the council for recommendation. And usually the ad hoc will be to issue related to official, elected official or some. So why we need to hear public? Why? Why? This is not like gun shooting and we want to create ad hoc to do it, because this is not us. Ad hoc, the definition, and the attorney can clear it to me, to work on something. So I feel this is like something being added, so understand, like, do we want to bring public to talk about our rules and procedure? That's how the ad hoc work for something related to us.
I think there was a question about if an ad hoc committee either needed or wanted public input, how that could take place. And my recollection, and this one I don't remember all the details, but I think it was saying that if the ad hoc ever wanted to have outside input, that presentation, if it was being brought in to be heard, so say there was something on housing, right? And it made sense to hear from Habitat for Humanity. Your ad hoc committee would not hear that presentation. They would bring the presentation to the full council to hear it as part of their research and preparations of whatever it is. Maybe they're doing like a study on housing.
Are you implementing new things? Like now, people will come create ad hoc to hear the gun shooting. So yeah, this is new. I don't think this is as council assigned for us. There is no housing. We will not create housing to create ad hoc. There is special focus area they will do in it. So I don't think this should be here at all. So I feel like there's something It's not adds up. Can somebody explain it to me? Because we have special focus area. If they want to do anything, will be in special focus area. Why we create ad hoc, for example, housing, while housing will be under the special focus area.
All right, bad example. I was just trying to pull something
I
that I
think
thought
maybe
could be
we should
suitable.
remove it.
Here's a better example. We are an ad hoc committee to go over rules and procedure. The listening sessions where we found other cities doing a similar thing, if we thought it could be beneficial in the ongoing meetings, so say between the 2 June meetings, that someone said, hey, can you bring in whoever, organizes the listening sessions for Pasco, whoever organizes the listening sessions for Lakewood or Issaquah or whatever, if we wanted to have that presentation as a part of rules and procedures, that presentation from an outside party would happen to the full body, likely in a study session. It's not happening alone in the ad hoc committee. It's making sure that everybody's informed of any outside input so that it's part of the full body's awareness, I guess, is probably the best. So they have the opportunity to ask additional questions, really.
So you answer your question, that will go related to the new topic. This means they can come in the study session. I feel more comfortable if we remove it because public testimony relating to I don't feel will create more issue. Then I get that what you're saying, if we want to bring Issaquah to come, that means will be new subject. That means we already added in the point, I forget the one we just talked about it. I think should be removed. I know I don't have the vote and everybody will ignore me, but I feel more comfortable to remove it.
I'm not the chair.
Councilmember Taylor?
I just want to be on the same page as everybody because I feel like I am dying inside right now. I'm so sick.
By the way.
So, from what I understand of this statement in 16C, is that, I'm of the understanding the ad hoc committee is just made up of people inside the council. So having somebody from the public can't really do anything for the ad hoc committee.
No.
I'm getting a head shake from.
Correct. The proposed change flows from the prior sentence, which affirmatively states the ad hoc committees shall not receive public testimony in connection with or related to the agenda item be discussed.
Okay.
And the proposed change flows from that to reinforce it, but it may not be necessary. It's up to you folks.
So
I'm so confused. What?
I'm sorry, I think I gave you a no, yeah, not a yeah, no.
Okay.
It's bad Pacific Northwest. Yes, ad hoc committees don't receive public testimony in their committee meetings.
Right.
So when we were meeting in February and March and April, it was only the committee members and staff.
Right.
No outsiders.
Okay.
After we had our first meeting, if you had said, hey, bring in those people so we can hear how they do it, that would be great input.
Sure.
And we say, yeah, that sounds great, let's do that. And maybe we will for 2026, that'd be cool. We could invite them, but we can't hear them off on our own. We have to invite them to study session so everyone can engage with whatever those people are sharing.
Okay.
Whether it's a habitat or Issaquah people or whatever the topic is at hand. And then as the committee continues to work through whatever recommendations they've been tasked with putting together, then they have information that everybody has available to them.
Okay.
That is it.
Okay, that's tracking. Okay.
Councilmember Ammer.
Still, this is going like ad hoc. They should, if you want to add it, it should be by majority vote. Because maybe, I'm still against it. I see agenda coming with this. I see there is agenda coming for added. And will go kinda against I don't understand, for ad hoc, you be talking topic related to council. Why we wanna bring public? Because ad hoc decided. Anyway, I feel more comfortable if we remove it? I know I don't have the vote and I'm being chair, being ignored. Anything I'll say it because they insist.
Councilmember Taylor's hand was up first and then Mayor. Sorry, I try to follow the order.
I think now reading this again, I think I would kind of side with Councilmember Amir, because when I'm reading it again, it kind of feels like it goes back to the point where the mayor was talking about like a way around something, like, so if there's no public testimony allowed or order participation during the ad hoc committee, then if we turn around and say, yeah, but it's okay when we're in a group setting to then allow it, it's kind of circumventing that. Kind of feels like that. So, I don't know, just my thoughts.
I know. One second.
I know.
Anybody watch Welcome Back, Kotter?
Yeah.
The goal is that it follows OPMA rules. It would be in a regular council meeting and the committee would be working with the deputy mayor and mayor to put it on the agenda. There's no surprises in that. It would be strictly coming through normal agenda process if it were to come in, because you'll note it is at council's request. So it'd be full council saying we want more info on this was the intent. Mayor.
I'm just gonna put this out there. I don't know that this statement needs to be in there, because public testimony at a city council meeting is allowed regardless of the topic. So you don't need to call that out. Same thing with a presentation. It doesn't need to be called out because you've already got how you can have presentations go through the city clerk to be put on an upcoming agenda. So if there's discomfort with this statement being in there, I think it's all still available to do without having that statement in there, because public testimony, anybody can come and give public testimony. You don't have to say, hey, please come and give testimony on X. The fact that there is an ad hoc committee that has been put together on a specific topic usually implies that there is some public interest in this. I'll go back to when there was an ad hoc committee on transportation benefit districts. We had a lot of people come into the council meetings and talk about TBDs, right? Whether they wanted them or didn't want them, or whether they wanted license tab fees or not. So I'll just say that I don't think this is adding anything to be in there, because it's already all allowed already. And so if it makes some council members more comfortable that it's not in there, and there isn't a burning desire to have it in there by other council members, it may be better to just remove it because it's already allowed in other parts of this document. I'm getting a nod from the city attorney.
Which the good nod or not? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a nod, I'm not nodding off.
No, I'm nodding with you.
Honestly, I'm not married to this. I thought it was, I thought it was helpful. So that way, if you're in an ad hoc and you're trying to figure out, well, how do we bring people into the conversation in an appropriate way? It gave guidance that you do it through the council meeting. If we think they can figure that out on their own, and we already have the mechanisms for it, we can strike it. So that will be rejected based on the consensus I hear.
Oh yeah, did you ask for head? He told me to shake my head.
Wow.
Okay.
It's been a good meeting.
It's getting late.
It is. Do we need a bio break?
Or are we not done?
Are we not done?
I'm done with new things from the committee. Are there other things from, yes?
I would like to have deputy mayor. I think there is 2 requests to have. I'm the one who love to have fair with people, and they love to see to have limit for deputy mayor rules. I think we submitted twice to be limit, like either I know I was so generous as I said twice in term, and council member Tracy Taylor said once in term for deputy mayor selection to allow, because personally as a leader, Girl Scout leader, there is some good leaders, they may not wanna jump in because they think the other they wanted, that will allow to be a rotation between the council. I don't wanna be deputy mayor, to be clear, but I think I would love to see like term limit.
I remember we discussed that one, and the concern out of the committee was that the makeup of council is dynamic and it changes. And so some years you're gonna have people who have day jobs and maybe don't have the bandwidth for it. Some years you're gonna have maybe more retirees or people who are not working. And so because we don't know what that makeup is gonna be and look like, the best way to enforce term limits is to have elections and vote for a different person. That being said, we discussed it quite a bit, and the concern that we had is that, well, what situation do you get yourself into if you put language in that says there are term limits, but then you don't wind up having people who are eligible any longer, right? You might have someone who maybe you have confidence or that person's doing well and you just want to let them rise. What was that, Mayor?
If only one council member has their CML.
Right.
The way you have the deputy mayor role written, there's only one person that would be eligible. You could suspend your council rules, but the way your rules are written, there would only be.
I don't think that's accurate anymore. I think quite a bit
Yeah,
of
I think
people
all
have
of us have
CMLs.
our CML right.
I'm not saying this current.
Right.
Yeah, I know,
In
yes,
that
I'm following,
dynamic-
yeah.
Correct. In the dynamic situation going forward, that could be a limiter. So we did have a lot of discussion on that, and I think the concern was the practicality of implementing it when we have annual elections as it stands.
We did not say we'll not have annual election. I said annual election, but will be, from the beginning, the elected deputy mayor, they know that they have limit term. Either they selected this year, let's say 2 years, and they can come back another years, but that doesn't mean they'll stay the 4 years. That's what I'm saying. I said, we still have election every year, but I would prefer to see language say, because I would prefer to see more leaders to step up, to say every year election and council limit to twice in their term. So if council was elected, they can run these 2 years and they will step down at least 2 years and the other will run. That's what I'm saying. We will still have election, but we limit it by term limit. And we have 7 councils, so probably somebody will jump, not me. We have 6. That's, well, I can find you the language, I will add it, because I know there is 2, I seen it as a way to encourage other council to get involved. It doesn't matter, we all have their job. So allowed more people to get involved and step to the more leadership. That's my opinion.
I think it would be under 12.
At 12, I know, yeah. I know I added. And this is my comment, and I know that's my.
I'm not seeing a lot of head nods as far as trying to get that language in.
Like what, like you want term limits?
I want term limit. I prefer to see term limit add in our rules. That's fine if we have not added now, we can add it before. I prefer to have term limit to, so each person, when they will be deputy mayor, they will, it's allowed more. There is 6 other people, so that's what I'm saying it. I wanna find, I know it came, 2 requests was from when I saw, I have the role here. I requested, I know council member Tracy requested 2, she requested for 1 term to allow more leaders to step in. I requested to be twice in the term, so.
For clarification, I think when I had submitted my changes is I would like to see, yeah, everybody have an opportunity. If they wanna take an opportunity to be a deputy mayor, yeah, give them that opportunity for that vote. I'm not opposed to that at all.
Do you have, I think what we would need to move forward on this is interest in having term limits in this cycle for the document, and it's not to say it can't come back next year.
Thanks, Council Chair. I feel like I'm not being heard, I'm saying stuff, and you just like, oh, next cycle. There is talk to show that they would like it. So it's fine. I'm not sure what the other thinking, but it's something maybe we need to think about it. That's okay.
And I'm not saying it's not something that is restricted or unavailable to us. What I am trying to do is facilitate this meeting, get us through the item. I'm trying to read body language, and I shared the input of the committee in that when we had reviewed it, the concerns we had is that the makeup of council is very dynamic and that implementing term limits could present more challenges than not. And you may disagree with that. You are entitled to have an opinion and to disagree with that,
Chair,
but I'm representing
please be
the
respectful
outcome of the committee.
Point of order, when you talk to me, try to be respectful, not attacking.
Excuse me, Councilmember Ammer, that was intended to be respectful, and you may not feel that it was, based on what you have shared.
I'm coming back to put the request. Can we go to the point, 12 point, find if this is something we can add?
Page 18.
Please reminder that when these being done, it's a recommendation, we still allowed to add and put it here and ask for a vote without interfere with the recommendation. Just for clarification, and I'm asking the attorney for if I'm right or not. I think Chair need to remember not to push back, because it became not chairing, it became pushing. Questions being said, can we add annual and more required, blah, 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 to have 1 or 2 years term? That's question.
If the question is to me.
No, I'm asking,
Okay.
first, I'm sorry, I'm asking you. I think the chair start more not sharing, because the chair need to listen and try, but the chair start pushing and more than just even try and get consent. And that being continues the whole meeting.
I heard the original question was whether or not you could still propose an alteration at this session, notwithstanding the recommendations of the ad hoc committee. And yes, you can. That's the whole purpose of bringing this forward as a body of the whole.
Yes. And Councilmember Ammer, I've heard your recommendation, and I'm looking at your peers in the room to see if there appears to be interest in accepting your recommended modification, and I am not seeing that. It is not pushback when I'm trying to assess and gauge the interest of the other council members. If you stand alone with your recommendation, I'm looking for consensus. Is there
Chair,
interest?
you need to clear it where you want to add it before saying consensus, because this look like either you need to clean your glasses, because you say consensus
Point of order,
without.
point of order.
State your point.
You're attacking it. That was a direct comment about our glasses that has no relevancy on what we're talking about.
I
And so-
apologize for that, because I'm being ignored all the time.
Councilmember Taylor?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry that, so I think that what I heard was that, there was some discussion already about it, and there was a response to the request that this is what the concerns were. And so I then heard a follow-up. What I believed I heard was that there doesn't seem to be a consensus of the peers that are currently on the floor.
Thank you, Councilmember Taylor. That is my read of the situation. Councilmember Ammer, if you would like to make a more specific recommendation for change, please share.
Did you ask the consent about it? When I just want to see that being, you bring my notes and ask about it. Where I asked to be add, a council member may serve as deputy mayor no more than twice per term of office. That was the request. To encourage chair leadership, prevent long-term control of the position, align with fair governance practice, avoid the concentration of power in one individual or over multiple terms. That was the request. A rotate leadership among different council members, ensure fresh perspective on leadership. That was my reason.
Thank you, Councilmember Ammer. I remember that request, and I remember the committee had determined that an effective way to provide term limits is through the annual election process. Councilmember Taylor's hand was up, and then Councilmember Rakes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure how to approach this. So from what I'm reading right here in this piece at 12.1, it's a 1-year time period, which means one time.
Correct.
You get to be deputy mayor one time, 1 year. It opens it up to everybody to have a fair shot. Will somebody on this council try to go for deputy mayor one more time? Absolutely. But I think the council will see it as it will give a fresh perspective if we have a different leader every year. It doesn't have to be 2 years. I mean, if you think about it, we have 4-year terms, okay? It gives 7 of us an opportunity to jump out there and be a leader. It doesn't have to be 2 years. I think 1 year is fine. That's my opinion. I respect yours. But as I see it, I think it gives everybody an opportunity and a fair shake at becoming a deputy mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember Rakes.
That's actually what I was gonna say, because it's your peers that vote you in. So you could vote somebody else in. Right? It doesn't mean, you don't have to have term limits. Because if somebody else wants in and they get the votes for it.
You guys did like right at the same moment.
What was this?
Mayor Backus, then Councilmember Taylor.
No, I'm good.
Since I have more years sitting in this room than the rest of you do, just to share experiences from the past. When I first became a council member, we had one council member who, first of all, the way that you were able to become a deputy mayor, or back then it was mayor pro tem, was that you had to be one of the 3 senior council members in order to be considered for deputy mayor. Okay? So that meant it could rotate between 3 council members, or every 2 years there may be a new council member added to that, to the most tenured council members. At that point in time, we were happy with the deputy mayor. It was Deputy Mayor Sue Singer. Right? Sue Singer, I believe, served as deputy mayor for about 4 years. Because of the way the requirements were written at that time, and the other 2 people who were the most tenured didn't want the job. It's also been that once that was opened up, there were several people who wanted to be deputy mayor. Sometimes that person was re-elected by their peers for another term. I had 2 or 3 years as deputy mayor, but each one of those was in a 1-year term. So there are benefits to term limits, I understand that, but I do think that your peers will allow for that themselves. If you're doing a great job and they want you to continue, they will vote you into that role for another year. You can take yourself out of it. Or if the council members feel that you did a great job, but it's time for someone else, they can vote for someone else, as long as someone is willing to step up to take on that role. So it is more of it's a self-governing, really. It's going to, there are ways that people's terms are limited without having it be prescriptive in the language of your council rules of procedure. The way it's written right now, I think allows for more opportunity for more members of the council because as I said, what happens if in the future and you have in here that you have to have your CML, and there's only 2 people that have their CML, and one of them, and I'm not saying anybody around this table right now, but what if there is no way that you ever want that person to be the deputy mayor? And you've got term limits, you're kind of stuck. So this way, I think, allows you the most opportunity to be flexible and to elect who you think is going to be best in the role. I mean, every council around here has different ways. There are some that rotate it year by year. You're this year, you're next year, you're the year after that, and it's just on a rotating basis. There are some that have 2-year terms. There are some like us where it's just an annual vote and anyone is eligible for it. So there is no common way of doing this. It's whatever works best for this council.
Okay. On that topic, Councilmember Hammer, I've heard your request. As chair, I have heard your request, but I'm not seeing consensus to include language with regards to term limits. Councilmember Hammer.
Thanks to Councilmember Tracy Taylor, Mayor, for clarification, and they heard me. I felt heard by both of them, not by the chair. Just I want to say it for the record.
Council, are there any other items for consideration for modifying the draft as is in front of you?
For transparency, could you scan where the change being done so everybody will be able to see it to make sure we're not missing anything?
Do you want Hannah to read that last provision, or are you good with that?
No, we can scan it quick. Oh, no,
Okay.
no. But if you want her to read it for us, that's fine. We'll stay the whole night here. Thanks.
Just to clarify, that document right there does not reflect what I'm doing.
Oh, no, we're talking about, yeah. Oh, no, we're talking about it.
Every time I make a change.
Try to move slowly for her.
Councilmember Taylor?
So the changes have been made over there, so we're just kind of scrolling through the document that we all have.
Yes, correct. I just want to make sure that we went through every change.
There are other minor changes in here. The point of the open floor at this stage is if there is anything else that is proposed that you want to discuss or other items, this is your window to do so. I can continue to scroll, but it is the expectation that council came prepared to discuss if there were any issues with what was presented in the materials.
Can I ask a question?
Councilmember Taylor?
Thank you, Chair. To Councilmember Sturgis and Councilmember Trout that are not in attendance tonight, do they have an opportunity to fire back anything that if they've seen this? I mean, I'm assuming that Councilmember Sturgis and Councilmember Trout have seen this, and if they had anything, they would be able to put in their input, even though they're not present tonight?
At this stage, the plan of action was to take the outcome from this meeting into a vote. So the last opportunity would be in the council meeting that's coming forward. This was one item that we did not discuss, but was a cleanup of language. I think this was your recommended language, Councilmember Taylor. We
Yes,
accepted
that is
this
my-
without
yeah.
change
Yep.
based on your recommendation.
Thank you.
Or pardon me, the committee had recommended that we accept it without change based on your recommendation.
Yep.
So council attendance, the travel authorization, the per diem you had talked about.
Yep.
And then that is.
And I made correction for this one. There is typo. I can say there is typo. No, scroll down, scroll the last page. Yes, go up. I just sent correction.
2019.
Yes, the December 17, the resolution 5399, December 17, 2018, not 2019. And they will give me chocolate for catching this.
Okay. Do we have any other feedback for the draft that our plan would be to move forward with for a council vote? So our next steps would be for the clerk's office to update the draft with tonight's changes and add to our council agenda. I'm saying nods, nods, nods.
I'm fine.
All right. Yes, thank you. All right, with Councilmember Taylor?
No.
No.
Please hurt.
Deputy Mayor, the meeting's back to you.
Okay, so meeting's adjourned.